Chapter 95. 10,000 Tales. Ame chuckled and looked up at Luo Feng. Master, I'm tired of drifting around. It's good to settle down. Luo Feng frowned at her. Chu Li smiled at Ame. Having a woman like her was Luo Feng's good fortune. Ame turned her head and smiled. But Master Qin, my master has many enemies. Chu Li smiled. Who doesn't have enemies in the martial arts world? That's true. Ame chuckled. But if an enemy really comes looking for us, we'll have to run or else we'll bring trouble to the startling Cloud Association. Am I right? Chu Li chuckled. Luo Feng said coldly, my enemies are not easy to deal with. If they take their anger out on the startling Cloud Association, don't blame me for not reminding you. Chu Li smiled. Tell me, who are your enemies? Nine Rings Blade, White Tiger, and Heart Cutter. These three are the strongest. Luo Feng scoffed. Chu Li shook his head. Don't worry, they won't dare to come. Won't dare. Luo Feng sneered. With the startling Cloud Association's strength? They can destroy us all by themselves. Chu Li smiled. Then you're underestimating the startling Cloud Association. There aren't many martial arts masters in the startling Cloud Association, but in the Cloud State Town, they're the local tyrant. Once your enemies enter the town, you'll know what to do. What you need to do is to deal with them, and not let them hunt you down. This is much better than fighting alone and being hunted down, isn't it? Luo Feng frowned. Do you trust me that much? He knew Chu Li well. Being alone was not a long-term solution. It wasn't that he was proud and didn't want to be under someone's command. It was that he didn't trust the other factions. What if they betrayed him after he joined them? Chu Li smiled. I trust your feelings for Miss Ame more. Humph. Luo Feng stared at him coldly. He was angry that Chu Li was using Ame to threaten him, but there was nothing he could do. Chu Li really had his life in his hands. In the past few years, without Ame, he was free and unfettered. Things were different now. With Ame, he also had worries and restraints. He couldn't come and go freely, and he had even more apprehensions. Child Qin, startling Cloud Faction's faction leader Qin, is very beautiful. Ame smiled sweetly. Chu Li glanced at her. She is my cousin. I see. Ame came to a sudden realization. She chuckled and said, to be able to control the startling Cloud Association as a woman, I'm very impressed. Chu Li said, it's just as well. Both of you will be staying at the Su residence, and you'll have someone to talk to. Miss Ame is smarter than most people, she'll be able to help cousin sister. Sure, I also want a companion, Ame said with a smile. Luo Feng's face was so gloomy that it could drip water. Chu Li looked at Luo Feng. Brother Luo, it's decided then. I'll make a move first and wait for the both of you at the Su residence. In a flash, he disappeared in front of the two. The cool breeze whistled as it blew past the treetop. Luo Feng's face was gloomy, he did not say a word. Ame said in a low voice, Master, I've dragged you into this. Don't say such things in the future. Luo Feng scoffed. Do you think that without you I could have escaped? Ame was silent. At first glance, she knew that Chun-Li was a smiling tiger, but he was cruel and merciless. If Master really did not agree to it, it was obvious that Master would not be able to live. Luo Feng scoffed. Forget it, it's better to have someone to rely on. We can live comfortably. We're not running away. We can't. Luo Feng shook his head. Let's go and see the startling Cloud Association. In the evening, the setting sun dyed the Su residence golden. 4 clan leaders, 2 protectors, and 1 guest gathered at the Su residence. They sat quietly and drank tea. The Rain clan leader, Hisho, put down his teacup and sighed. Elder Hu, we should increase our strength. Luckily, the faction leader was lucky this time. If something bad happened to her, we wouldn't have the face to continue living. Elder He, it's easy for you to say. Where can we find masters? Hu Hai pouted and scoffed. Damn it, this master must have been recruited by the Equal of Heaven Association. They spent a lot of money on him. Equal of Heaven Association. The Equal of Heaven Association. At the end of his sentence, he gritted his teeth. He wanted to tear the Equal of Heaven Association apart. There's nothing we can do. He shook his head. This time, it's our weakness. The Wind clan leader, Ching Chongfeng, was the new clan leader. His foundation was not shallow. He was originally a member of the Wind clan. Although he had not reached the innate mastery's boundary, he was very popular and could control the situation. Ching Chongfeng frowned. Clan leader we need to think of something. We were lucky to escape this time, but what about next time? We can't let Master Li stay here forever. We're willing but Master Li isn't. Speaking of which, he was very grateful to Chu Li. If this Master Li did not kill the original clan leader, he would not have become the clan leader. Hu Hai frowned and looked at Jing Gongming. Jing Gongming was taking a nap. When he felt Hu Hai's gaze, he stroked his beard and shook his head. There's nothing we can do. Elder Jing, don't you have any friends? No. Are you afraid that a master will come and you won't have a place? Hu Hai scoffed. Jing Gongming stroked his beard and spat out 4 words. You're unreasonable. Hu Hai widened his eyes and scoffed. Elder Jing, the association leader is the same without you. You're useless. There's always someone better. How can he block everyone? Jing Gongming stroked his beard and shook his head. We were unlucky this time, but it might not be the same next time. Next time, if a master like this comes again, can you block him? Hu Hai sneered. Su Anxia's face darkened. He felt that every word was directed at him, but he could not do anything. This time, it was indeed his dereliction of duty. He could not even block one palm. It was too embarrassing. If Master Li did not come back, he would not be able to redeem himself even if he died 100 times. The sound of footsteps could be heard. Chen Xiu, dressed in white, leisurely walked over. Luo Feng and Ah Mei followed beside her. Yu Er was at the back. Association leader. Everyone stood up and fist saluted. Chen Xiu waved her hand. No need to be so polite. She turned to look at Luo Feng and smiled. Elder Luo, please. Luo Feng bowed and nodded. Association leader, please. Everyone's gaze fell on Luo Feng. They looked at him suspiciously. They did not know what the association leader was up to. Chen Xiu walked to the armchair in the center and sat down. Yu Er stood behind her. Everyone took their seats in turn. Luo Feng sat on her left, and on her right was Lan Jingzhong. Lan Jingzhong was a guest of the association. His status was aloof. He usually did not get involved in the affairs of the association. He was silent most of the time. At this time, he curiously looked at Luo Feng. He did not know why this person was qualified to sit in that position. Everyone, let me introduce. Chen Xiu smiled. This is Elder Luo Feng. From today onwards, he will be the guest of the Startling Cloud Association. Zheng Gongming's hand that was stroking his beard had already stopped. He had been staring at Luo Feng since he stepped into the hall. Su Anxia's eyes widened. He was so angry that he was about to burst out. As soon as Chen Xiu finished speaking, he stood up and glared at Luo Feng. It's you, isn't it? Luo Feng glanced at him coldly and ignored him. Su Anxia pointed at him and shouted, You're the guy who assassinated the association leader. Chen Xiu waved her hand and said, Guardian Su, don't be impatient. Sit down and talk. Su Anxia quickly said, Association leader, this guy is the guy who tried to assassinate you last time. How did he become a guest? No discord, no concord. Chen Xiu smiled. Alright, sit down, sit down. Chapter 96. After Su Anxia sat down, he stared coldly at Luo Feng. Luo Feng held the teacup and took a sip. He ignored the people around him and kept them at a distance. The 4 clan leaders thought it was unbelievable. No matter how they thought about it, they did not expect Luo Feng to come here openly and be hired as an honorary guest. Hu Hai could not hold it in and asked, "Leader, is this the flaming sun palm Luo Feng?" "Yes." Chen Siyu said, "Leader Hu, clan leaders, from now on we are a family. Let's work together and dominate the Cloud State town." Everyone stared at Luo Feng, trying to see through him. Luo Feng slowly put down his teacup and gave everyone a fist salute. This made Chen Siyu feel helpless. Luo Feng was very arrogant and did not intend to make friends with them. He did not respect them. Su Anxia snorted coldly. Jing Gongming squinted his eyes and looked at Luo Feng. He resisted the urge to speak. Hu Hai chuckled and said, "Sect leader. He actually became our foreign dignitary. Sect leader's magnanimity is even greater than that of a man." "Leader Hu, don't flatter me." Chen Siyu smiled and shook her head. "Senior Luo is here. The strength of the startling Cloud Association has greatly increased. There is hope for us to suppress the Equal of Heaven Association." Hu Hai puffed up his chest and felt full of confidence. He scoffed, "Let's see what kind of masters these bastards can invite." Su Anxia's face was tense. He could not let go of his anger. "I have long heard of the flaming sun palm." He Shou gave a fist salute and smiled. "Brother Luo, why did you lower yourself to come to our association? I really don't understand." Hu Hai laughed. "It must be Master Chen's doing." Luo Feng coughed and said in a deep voice, "Yes, I am here on behalf of Master Chen." His face was a little hot. Everyone suddenly understood and had different thoughts. It was Master Chen again. Chen Siyu clapped her hands and smiled. "That's it for today. Anyway, we have a long way to go. We will slowly get to know each other. Everyone, go back to your own business." "Leader, I will stay." Hu Hai said, "I am worried about Elder Jing and Xiao Su." He looked at Luo Feng. After all, he was a newcomer. His loyalty had not been tested. If he was a spy sent by the Equal of Heaven Association, it would be fatal. Master Chen had already left. They could not be careless. Chen Siyu said, "Senior Luo is here, it's okay." Hu Hai thought to himself. This was exactly what he was guarding against. However, he kept a smile on his face and said, "I am quite free today." Chen Siyu saw through his thoughts. She smiled and said, "All right, clan leader Hu, go ahead with your work. I know what I'm doing." When Hu Hai saw her giving him a look, he could only nod helplessly. He glanced at Luo Feng, cupped his fists and said, "All right, then let's come again tonight." Chen Siyu waved her hand. Everyone exited the hall and exited the Su mansion. He Shou said, "Scarlet Sun Palm Luo Feng, why is he here as a guest?" The flaming sun palm, Luo Feng, was famous in the martial arts world. Logically speaking, he would not even be interested in the Startling Cloud faction. Coming to the Startling Cloud faction as a foreign minister was a humbling act. Why would Luo Feng do such a thing? What's more, Luo Feng had severely injured the faction leader before. In the blink of an eye, he had turned from an enemy into a friend and became a foreign dignitary. This change was too fast. It must be young Master Li. The clan leader of the Wind Clan, Qing Changfeng, sighed. Our young Master Li really can do what others can't. It must be young Master Li who forced Luo Feng to do this. Hu Hai laughed. Look at Luo Feng's unwilling face, it's most likely the case. Young Master Li must be worried about the faction leader's safety. Qing Changfeng shook his head and smiled bitterly. It's also because we're incompetent and too weak. No matter how strong we are, how can we compare to Luo Feng? He Shou sighed. They were all influential figures in Cloud State Town, but in the entire martial arts world, they were nameless and not worth mentioning. They were at the same innate mastery boundary, but the difference between the strong and the weak was like the clouds and the mud. That's true, Hu Hai said. It can't be helped that our skills are not as good as others. He Shou scoffed. I've long heard of the flaming sun palm. I'd like to learn a few moves from you. As the clan leader of the Rain clan, his position determined his position. He was glad that Luo Feng had come, but he was also afraid. Luo Feng's arrival had indeed increased the startling Cloud Association's strength. They would all benefit from it, but He Shou would definitely stand with the faction leader. The Flaming Sun Palm's reputation was far better than everyone else's, and his martial arts was powerful. With his support, the faction leader could speak more forcefully, and he had a greater pressure on the four clan leaders. After going through Su Jichuan's era, the four clan leaders' power was suppressed to the lowest point. They were submissive and submissive. Now that the four clan leaders had become old wives, the four clan leaders' authority was not strong, and their lives were much better. They could not wait to maintain the status quo and let the faction leader continue to rule. Once the faction leader became stronger, they would have to go back to their old days, and they would not be satisfied no matter what. With this thought in mind, he wanted to show Luo Feng who was stronger. Zheng Gongming and Su Anxia were no match for Luo Feng. After all, it was a sneak attack, and they might be able to win if they were prepared. Even if they could not win, a few more moves would be enough. Elder He, you can't do it. Hu Hai laughed. I have to fight even if I can't. He Shou scoffed. I have to let him know who's the master. You. Hu Hai shook his head. You think too much. Don't worry, the faction leader is not someone who would burn bridges after crossing the river. Hu Hai and the others knew what He Shou was worried about, but they could not say it out loud. Luo Feng's arrival must be the faction leader's confidant. If he were to suppress them, they would not have enough confidence to speak, and their lives would not be good. The faction leader is still young, we old fellows have to help her. Don't go down the wrong path. He Shou said. Hu Hai laughed. Don't go down the wrong path. Elder Cheng's predecessor is a good example. Master Li is not a soft-hearted person. Of course. He Shou's heart skipped a beat. All of them were afraid of Master Li. His martial arts were extremely high, and he was cruel and merciless. He killed without batting an eye. Even if they were clan leaders, Master Li would not show them any mercy. It's not a bad idea to show Luo Feng who is stronger, Qing Changfeng said. But I'm afraid that it will make him look worse. Not necessarily. He Shou scoffed. My martial arts have improved a lot recently. Hu Hai laughed. All right, I want to see how powerful this flaming palm is. In the evening, everyone gathered at the Su residence. Every night, they would come over to discuss the matters of the faction, communicate with each other, and give ideas. This was a habit that Chen Xiu had formed since she became the faction leader. Chen Xiu and Luo Feng had not arrived yet, so Hu Hai and the others sat together and chatted while drinking tea. Elder Jing, did Luo Feng cause you trouble? Hu Hai asked with a smile. Jing Gongming usually dozed off at this time and did not talk much. When he heard Hu Hai's question, he opened his eyes and stroked his beard. Su Anxia said, What's wrong? Are you fighting? Hu Hai moved forward and grinned. Su Anxia pouted and scoffed. His eyes are on top of his head, he doesn't even look at us. Oh? He Shou frowned. Is he really that arrogant? He's even more arrogant than I said. Su Anxia scoffed angrily. How dare he? Yum Su. Jing Gongming stroked his beard and glanced at him. You're not as skilled as him, why are you talking so much nonsense? Su Anxia shut his mouth helplessly. Chen Xiu walked in leisurely, followed by Luo Feng. She looked at everyone and sat down in the armchair in the center. What are you guys talking about? Faction leader, I'd like to spar with Brother Luo. He Shou stood up. I've long heard of the Flaming Sun Palm, I'd like to experience it personally. Chen Xiu looked at Luo Feng. She turned her bright eyes and faintly understood what He Shou and the others were thinking. Luo Feng looked at He Shou coldly. You guys come at me together. What a big tone. He Shou stood up and gave a fist salute. Brother Luo, although you're famous, we're not weak either. I'd like to spar with you first. Luo Feng was too lazy to talk nonsense. He left the armchair and stood in front of He Shou. He stretched out his hand. Come on, Chen Xiu said. It's just a spar, don't hurt our friendship. The two nodded at him. He Shou shouted and punched with his right fist as fast as lightning, using all his strength. Luo Feng scoffed and pressed his palm forward. This palm was slow, but it arrived first. It bypassed He Shou's right fist and gently hit his chest. He Shou watched helplessly. His body was as slow as a snail. He watched as his chest was hit by the palm. He flew 10 feet away and stood steadily. He touched his chest. There was a palm print on it, but he did not feel anything. Amazing! Hu Hai gave a thumbs up. He could see the mystery of this palm. It was extremely fast, and the force used was exquisite. If it were him, he would not be able to avoid this palm. An expert could tell the truth the moment he made a move. There was no way to fake it. The flaming sun palm was indeed worthy of its reputation. He Shou gave a fist salute and looked bitter. I admire you. Luo Feng was expressionless. He sat back in the armchair to the left of Chen Xiu. Chen Xiu smiled. Does anyone else want to experience the flaming sun palm? Hu Hai and the others shook their heads. Chen Xiu said, All right, let's get down to business. It's about the Equal of Heaven Association. The Equal of Heaven Association has been very rampant recently. They've been jumping up and down as if they've become the masters of Cloud State Town. It's time to wake them up. Leader, are we going to attack the Equal of Heaven Association? Hu Hai's eyes lit up. Chen Xiu nodded. I'm going to destroy the Equal of Heaven Association. The Equal of Heaven Association was equipped with the same equipment as the Startling Cloud Association. There were 4 halls, and each hall had 100 people. The number of people was similar to the Startling Cloud Association, but their strength was far inferior. It couldn't be better. Hu Hai laughed. Damn it, I've always disliked them. Leader, you've always been suppressing them. Chen Xiu said, There's no peace in the association. How can we start a war? Now that we have Elder Luo, the time is ripe. We can make our move. How do we do it? Hu Hai asked. Luo Feng said, Leader. Chen Xiu turned to look at him and smiled. Elder Luo, do you have any suggestions? Luo Feng said in a deep voice, There's no need to go through so much trouble. Just kill Huang Hai. This. Chen Xiu frowned. Humph, how arrogant. Su Anxia curled his lips. Luo Feng ignored him and only stared at Chen Xiu. Chen Xiu said, Are you confident? Isn't it too dangerous? Luo Feng said, They don't know that I've joined the association. They'll be defenseless. It'll be easy to succeed. Brother Luo, is Huang Hai your friend? He Shou asked. Huang Hai was the leader of the Equal of Heaven Association. Although he was not as good as Su Jichuan, he was not to be underestimated. They were no match for him in a one-on-one fight. Luo Feng shook his head. No. Brother Luo, you're not assassinating the leader because of the Equal of Heaven Association. He Shou asked. Luo Feng said, It's because of the Equal of Heaven Association, but not Huang Hai. Then who is it? Luo Feng did not answer. Chapter 97. Then we'll destroy Huang Hai. Hu Hai gritted his teeth. This guy is too difficult to deal with. He had suffered a lot from Huang Hai, otherwise, the Equal of Heaven Association would not have risen. Only Su Jichuan could suppress Huang Hai. After Su Jichuan's death, they were afraid of Huang Hai. Luo Feng looked at Chen Xiu. Chen Xiu pondered for a moment and nodded. That's good. It's easier to deal with a group without a leader. Elder Luo, I'll have to trouble you. Luo Feng said, I'll take care of him. Chen Xiu looked at Qing Changfeng. Clan leader Qing, can you find out Huang Hai's whereabouts? No problem. Qing Changfeng quickly said. The Wind Clan was responsible for intelligence gathering and assassinations. They had infiltrated the Equal of Heaven Association deeply and had eyes and ears everywhere. It was not difficult to find out Huang Hai's whereabouts. Chen Xiu said, "Limit the scope of this operation to the minimum. We can only use 2 people at most to find out Huang Hai's whereabouts." "I understand, leader." Qing Changfeng gave a fist salute. Mobilizing too many people would be easily detected and alert the enemy. Chen Xiu looked at everyone. "Do you have anything else to add?" "Leader, if Brother Luo succeeds, we'd better act immediately." Hu Hai said, "Speed is the most important thing in war. We have to strike first." Chen Xiu pondered. Hu Hai said, "Leader, do you have other arrangements? Is it possible to make the Equal of Heaven Association fall apart?" Chen Xiu's eyes wandered and swept across everyone. "If they start a fight for the position of leader, it's very possible." He Shou nodded. "Huang Hai's situation is the same as the previous leader. He's wise and powerful, but the people under him don't have much prestige. However, there's one thing. Huang Hai has a son. There are 2 more." Hu Hai scoffed. Chen Xiu's eyes flashed. "Like father, like son. Both of his sons are useless, but they're a threat. Clan leader Hu, can you get rid of them?" "No problem." Hu Hai patted his chest and laughed. "These 2 guys are spoiled brats. It's a piece of cake to get rid of them. It's best to do it at the same time," Chen Xiu said. "Make it look like a personal grudge." Sect leader Luo Feng said, "There's no need to go through so much trouble. I'll take advantage of the time when they're at home and kill the 3 of them at once." "It's too dangerous," Chen Xiu said. Luo Feng's movement technique was fast, and his palm technique was powerful. His assassination was sure to hit its target, and he swaggered off. Assassinating 1 person was not too dangerous, but assassinating 3 people was completely different from assassinating 1 person. There would definitely be a commotion, and the defense of the Yellow Sea could not be underestimated. No matter how good Luo Feng's martial arts were, his life would still be in danger if he was surrounded. Sigh. If only young master was here. Hu Hai sighed. Chen Xiu smiled. "You can't count on my cousin for everything. He's very busy." Before Chu Li left, he casually mentioned that with Luo Feng around, they should be able to take down the Equal of Heaven Association. It seemed like a casual remark, but she took it very seriously. Luo Feng said, "Chief, let me do it." "All right, Elder Luo, we will support you." "No need." Luo Feng waved his hand and said, "Too many people will only make things worse. I'm fine alone." "All right, I'll listen to Elder Luo." Chen Xiu slowly nodded. The main hall of the Su residence was brightly lit as if it was daytime. Chen Xiu and the others were sitting in the main hall. It was so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. Mei, who was dressed in a light green gown, sat quietly on Luo Feng's seat. Her back was straight and her hands were tightly holding onto a silk handkerchief. She occasionally glanced at the door. Only Luo Feng was absent from the startling Cloud Association. Everyone else was present. Hu Hai broke the silence and said, "Elder Qing, is there really no problem?" Qing Changfeng said, "There's absolutely no problem with my information. Huang Hai has a very regular schedule. He wakes up at 7 in the morning, eats breakfast and goes to the association. He comes back at night to eat, read some books, and then sleep. There's nothing special about him." "He doesn't leave the New Moon brothel?" Hu Hai curled his lips. Qing Changfeng shook his head. "Huang Hai doesn't lust after women. Then what's the point of living?" Hu Hai scoffed. Jing Gongming stroked his beard and smiled. He Shou scoffed. "Do you think everyone is like you? You're a hungry pervert." Chen Xiu coughed lightly and glanced at them. Hu Hai smiled sheepishly and changed the topic. "Elder Luo is too much. He just had to pick the most secure time to make his move. In my opinion, it's best to do it halfway. It's the easiest to succeed. Brother Luo is very skilled and bold." He Shou scoffed. Hu Hai laughed. "Elder He, You're still not convinced, are you? I don't dare to. He waved his hand. I'm convinced. I'm just angry at myself. I'm too useless. Then train as hard as you can, Hu Hai said. What's the big deal? Your fist technique is too ordinary. Find a better fist technique to practice. That's easy for you to say. He glared at him. Where can I find a better fist technique? Secret martial arts manuals are priceless treasures. Do you think you can get them just because you want them? Hu Hai tilted his head and thought for a while. I heard that Hu Pingyang with the one-punch suppressing Chuan has arrived at the town of clouds. Is that true? Yes. He nodded. Those famous masters were like the stars of the future. Wherever they went, they would be the center of attention. There would always be people who would warmly welcome them as the host. Other than Luo Feng, who deliberately kept a low profile, most masters would spread the news wherever they went. Hu Pingyang. Hu Hai stroked his beard and looked at Jing Gongming. Elder Jing, this guy is not a good person. Let's get rid of him and get a fist technique for Elder He? Nonsense. Jing Gongming stroked his beard and shook his head. Ame gripped her handkerchief tightly and glanced at the door from time to time. She was very worried. It would not be easy for Master to break into the Equal of Heaven Association alone. If anything went wrong, she would not be able to live. She glanced at the people in the hall. She knew that they were talking to suppress their worries. However, no matter how worried they were, they did not care about Master. They only cared about success or failure. She understood that old Master was doing this to prove his loyalty and also to establish his prestige. Elder Jing, what do you mean? Hu Hai shouted. Jing Gongming said, You're dreaming. What do you mean by dreaming? Hu Hai was unconvinced. Hu Pingyang's heart-shattering fist is very powerful. We just need to get rid of him and find the secret manual. How do you know he has the secret manual? Jing Gongming took a sip of tea. What if he didn't bring it with him? It's easy to get rid of this guy. Hu Hai scoffed. Jing Gongming said, He might not be able to escape unscathed. Now that we have Elder Luo, it shouldn't be a problem. Hu Hai said. Before Luo Feng came, he did not dare to provoke Hu Pingyang. Hu Pingyang's reputation was average. The reason he could survive until now was because of his top-notch fist technique. Jing Gongming could not be bothered and closed his eyes again. Hu Hai widened his eyes in disbelief. Chen Xiu waved her hand. All right, clan leader Hu. If it were you, would you bring the secret manual with you? Hu Hai said, Of course not. Chen Xiu glared at him in annoyance. Hu Hai chuckled and said, Isn't that a possibility? He said, Thank you for your kindness, but I can't accept it. Forget it. A blue shadow flashed and Luo Feng floated into the hall. He looked calm and gave a fist salute to Chen Xiu. Association leader, fortunately, I did not disappoint you. Everyone stood up. Hu Hai said loudly, Elder Luo, it's done? Luo Feng nodded and walked towards Ame. He smiled at her. Ame pursed her red lips. Haha, this is great. Hu Hai laughed. This is great. He hurriedly asked, Are you hurt, Brother Luo? Luo Feng shook his head. I can't even withstand a single blow. God is really helping the startling Cloud Association. Hu Hai laughed. Association leader, let's move. Chen Xiu said softly, Everyone, let's move according to plan. Chapter 98. Back garden of Jinghai City's City Guard Mansion. The bright moon hung in the middle of the sky, its clear radiance sprinkling down. The back garden was quiet and auspicious. Gu Litong sat in the octagonal pagoda and slowly sipped on a cup of wine. He poured out the melancholy and despair in his heart sip by sip. He stayed here alone, cold and cheerless. He had no friends, no enemies. He stayed in the back garden all day, unable to go out. Even if they went out, there was nothing much to see in Jinghai town. It was worlds apart from Chongming town. It was like going from the city to a poor village in the countryside. There was no interest in shopping. Recently, the situation had been tense. The people from the Ren public house were running around everywhere. It would be dangerous for him to go out, so he had been staying in the town defense prefecture. To him, it was like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. He could even tame the exotic flowers and plants in the public house, so these flowers and plants were not even worth mentioning. Sigh. He sighed faintly. His life was finally over. Since he had offended Master Xiao Taiying, it was impossible for him to return to the High Duke's public house. Being able to stay in the mayor's public house was already a favor from the third lady. She did not want him to die in vain. Of course, she did not want him to become a pawn against the High Duke's public house. No matter what, it was impossible for him to return to the Duke's public house. Thinking of the days in the house of High Dukes, where they wore luxurious clothes and ate delicately, they could hold their heads high. But now they could only live with their tails between their legs. They really felt that life was no longer interesting. Brother Gu, you're in a good mood. A green shadow flashed and Chu Li appeared in the pagoda. He was dressed in a green robe with a long sword hanging from his waist. He sat opposite Gu Ruoyun. Gu Litong frowned and stared at him. Why are you here? Chu Li smiled. Brother Gu, how have you been? Are you that kind? Gu Litong sneered. You just want to see if I ran away or not, right? Where can you run off to? Chu Li could not help but laugh. Brother Gu is a smart man. I've always been at ease. You don't come here for no reason. Gu Litong snorted. You're now the favorite of the third lady. You must be very busy. You don't have the time to bother with a useless person like me. Chu Li smiled and said, You're dispirited and feel that life is hopeless? What do you think? Gu Litong grunted. He had no choice but to throw caution to the wind. He said coldly, All right, don't be so timid. If you have something to say, then say it. Chu Li did not mind his attitude and smiled. I do need your help with a small matter. Speak. Gu Litong snorted. How can I refuse? Chu Li said, Help me plant a few types of grass. Spirit herbs? Gu Litong frowned and looked at him. What do you want to do? Chu Li took out a piece of paper from his pocket and passed it to him. I will inform the mayor. Gu Litong spread open the white paper and looked at it. He then raised his head and asked, So many? Chu Li said, Most of them are normal herbs, but there are a few types of spirit herbs. Is that okay? Who said no? Gu Litong proudly snorted. No problem. There's no spiritual soil here. There's no need to use spiritual soil for these spiritual herbs. Gu Litong curled his lips and looked at him from head to toe. What are you going to do with these? Chu Li smiled and spread his hands. Gu Litong grunted. How many do you want to plant? The more the better, Chu Li said. But you have to keep it a secret and do it as soon as possible. What's in it for me? Gu Litong snorted. 1,000 taels. Chu Li took out 10 banknotes from his pocket and handed them over. Is that enough? That's more like it. Gu Litong smiled. No matter how despicable Chu Li was, he could not go against money. Moreover, he knew that his life was saved by Chu Li. Although he was saved by Chu Li, he did not feel grateful. He still felt that Chu Li was despicable, but he would not cut ties with him because of this. He still needed to rely on Chu Li in the future. Otherwise, he would not be able to do anything. Chu Li looked around. You didn't find a woman? Not in the mood. Gu Litong carefully folded the white paper and scoffed. It's boring to do anything here. Don't worry. After a while, the third lady will think of a way to plead for you. Master Xiao Taiying might change his mind. Impossible. Gu Litong shook his head. He understood Master Xiao Taiying's character. He could not tolerate a single grain of sand in his eyes. Master Xiao Taiying would never use him again. Chu Li smiled. You're a genius. Master Xiao Taiying might appreciate your talent. There are many geniuses in the public house. I won't be a problem. Gu Litong scoffed. I don't want anything now. I just want to live peacefully. Chu Li looked at him. With your skills, it's not a problem for you to stay in the town defense prefecture. Gu Litong proudly scoffed. Chu Li said, the Rin public house is powerful. Be careful. Gu Litong scoffed. Don't worry. I won't leave the public house. Chu Li smiled. If you do well, I'll find a way to transfer you elsewhere. Find a place where the Rin public house can't touch you. You? Gu Litong squinted at him and said disdainfully, it's too early for you to be in power. He knew the situation in the public house very well. No matter how powerful Chu Li was, his age and experience were like two locks that locked the door to becoming a powerful person. He had only been in the public house for 2 years. He was young and inexperienced. How could a relationship of 2 years be compared to a relationship of 10 or 20 years? It was too easy to betray someone. Moreover, young people were unstable. Once they were in power, they would be impulsive and put many people's lives in danger. Chu Li said, there's no rush. We're both young. Don't worry. I'll take good care of these. Gu Litong patted his chest where the paper was. I won't delay your business. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Gu Litong was a smart man. He understood immediately. Chen Jiudeng finished his dinner and returned to his study. There were 3 tallow candles in the study. It was as bright as day and did not hurt his eyes. Although he was a martial arts master, he loved to read. It broadened his horizons and understood people's hearts. It was beneficial for him to climb up the ranks. Although he was now the clan leader of the Shangyi clan, he was not satisfied. He sat in front of the desk. He had a square face with a deep vertical line between his eyebrows. His eyes were sharp. Occasionally, he would glance at him with an ominous glint. He had an imposing manner. He suddenly turned around. Chu Li stood behind him in a green shirt. Who are you? Chen Jiudeng slowly stood up and looked at Chu Li calmly. Chu Li said, you're clan leader Chen Jiudeng, right? That's me. Chen Jiudeng nodded. What brings you here this late at night? Chu Li said, I'm Chen Li from the Startling Cloud Association. Chen Jiudeng's expression did not change. He said, the Startling Cloud Association. I don't think my association has anything to do with the Startling Cloud Association. Chen Xiefeng. Chu Li looked at him. Chen Xiefeng was shrewd. He was a powerful person. His innate mastery level was neither too high nor too low. If he did not have any external help, he would be stuck at this level for the rest of his life. Chen Jiudeng smiled. What Chen Feng? Who is he? Chu Li smiled. You're his brother-in-law. Don't you know who he is? Chen Jiudeng shook his head and smiled. You've got the wrong person. I don't know who Chen Xiefeng is, and I'm not his brother-in-law. Chu Li said, if that's the case, then I can only kill him. Chen Jiudeng stared at him. He wanted to see through his thoughts. Finally, he sighed. All right, he's my brother-in-law. What do you want? How about we make a deal? Chu Li smiled. The Startling Cloud Association will help you to become the association leader. What do you want? Chen Jiudeng scoffed. A 30% tax, Chu Li said. Impossible. Chen Jiudeng immediately denied. Chapter 99. Chen Jiudeng stared at Chu Li. He frowned and did not say a word. He was afraid of Chu Li. Chu Li broke into his study room without a sound. He was not an ordinary person. There were 28 protectors in the residence. Even birds would not be able to enter. It was not difficult for Chu Li to break in. The difficult part was that he did not make a sound. The Startling Cloud Association wanted to support him to become the association leader. They also found out about Chen Xiefeng. They should know that he was not willing to be a puppet. Chu Li smiled. I chose you because you can support the Rockwell Association. Also, Chen Xiefeng is a talent. The association leader cherishes talent and does not want him to die. You are very arrogant, Chen Jiuding said coldly. At his age and status, he would not trust anyone easily. There were only 3 people who knew about Chen Xiefeng's existence: his wife and the association leader. What if this was the association leader's test? Chunli was not from the startling Cloud Association, but the association leader? The association leader was a suspicious person. It was not impossible for him to do such a thing. Chu Li said, "There are many people in the Rockwell Association who want to be the association leader. The other 3 clan leaders must be interested too. It's a pity for Chen Xiefeng." Chen Xiefeng is? Chen Jiuding scoffed. Chu Li said, "He does not know that we have found out. He is very diligent. The association leader wants to promote him. This is a serious matter. Let me think about it for 2 days." Chen Jiuding said. "Clan leader Chen still does not trust me. Fine, I will help you get rid of the clan leader of the Shang Wu clan first." Chu Li smiled. Chen Jiuding looked at him suspiciously. Chu Li smiled. "The clan leader of the Shang Wu clan is your enemy. Helping you is a sign of our sincerity." As soon as he finished, he disappeared from the study room. Chen Jiuding got up and opened the door. He rushed into the courtyard. The night was dark and he could not see anyone. It was as if Chu Li did not exist. It was just a dream. "Guards! Guards!" Chen Jiuding shouted. A group of protectors rushed over. They stood at the bottom of the stairs and looked at him seriously. A beautiful middle-aged woman also gracefully walked over. She had a graceful figure and a gentle posture. "Master, what happened?" Chen Jiuding glanced around. All the protectors were still there. Obviously, they did not know that Chen Jiuding had come in. Chen Jiuding sighed helplessly and waved his hand. The crowd was baffled and dispersed. The middle-aged woman came closer and sized him up. She asked in a low voice, "Master, what happened?" Chen Jiuding shook his head and smiled. "It's okay. Madam, your body is weak. You should go and rest. You don't have to worry about this." "I can't sleep. I feel restless." The middle-aged woman shook her head and said, "Master, you should also rest early. Don't work too hard, your health is the most important." "All right." Chen Jiuding nodded. The middle-aged woman held his arm and walked forward. The 2 of them strolled to the back garden. She looked at the sky and sighed. Chen Jiuding knew what she was thinking about. He waved his hand and dismissed the maids. "Madam, are you thinking about Feng again?" "Sigh. I wonder how he is now." The middle-aged woman sighed. "He has suffered since he was young. Every time I see the young people in the gang, I think of him. I don't know if he will be in danger." "Don't worry, ma'am. Feng is very smart." Chen Jiuding patted her hand. The middle-aged woman shook her head. "I can only comfort myself. Life and death are decided by fate. He has never enjoyed a day of happiness with me as his sister. Just thinking about it makes me feel guilty." Chen Jiuding said, "If it doesn't work, let Feng come back." "Let him come back?" the middle-aged woman asked. Chen Jiuding nodded. "Yes, I will send someone to ask him to come back in 2 days." "That's for the best." The middle-aged woman nodded. "I don't expect him to have any achievements. I just want him to be safe and healthy. If he can marry and have children, it will be perfect." Chen Jiuding remained silent. If Chunli really wanted to help him, he might not let Feng go. Feng was like a hostage. If Chunli really let Feng come back, he would be worried. Chen Jiuding hugged his wife. He was thinking about whether Chunli really wanted to help him or not. The startling Cloud Gang was ambitious. How could a woman have such ambition? However, it was reasonable for a master like Chunli to be ambitious. He fell asleep in a daze. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door from outside. "Master! Master! Master!" Chen Jiuding sat up immediately. "What's the matter?" "Master, the gang leader has summoned you. There is an urgent matter to discuss. He wants you to go there immediately and bring more guards with you." Okay, I will go there immediately. Chen Jiudeng patted the sleepy wife. I have to go out for a while. You can go to sleep first. The middle-aged woman's eyes were hazy as she murmured, something big happened. Nothing. Chen Jiudeng smiled and patted her. The middle-aged woman fell into a deep sleep again. Chen Jiudeng got out of bed quietly. He put on his clothes and opened the door carefully. When he walked out of the house, the middle-aged housekeeper came forward and whispered, "Master, it's urgent." Chen Jiudeng said, "Don't wake the wife up no matter how serious it is." "Yes," the middle-aged housekeeper replied. Chen Jiudeng came to the living room. A young man stood up and gave a fist salute. "Greetings, Leader Chen. The gang leader has summoned us urgently. Please gather all the guards. We will go there immediately. The gang leader is waiting." Chen Jiudeng asked, "Xiao Chui, what happened?" Xiao Chui looked around. Chen Jiudeng smiled. "We are all on the same side. Tell me. Leader Wu was assassinated." Xiao Chui sighed and shook his head. "He is not going to make it." Chen Jiudeng's expression changed. He thought of Chen Li and asked, "Who did it?" "I don't know." Xiao Chui waved his hand. "The gang leader is furious. I don't know who did it." When the guards heard the commotion and went in, the assassin had already escaped. "What?" Chen Jiudeng's face was gloomy. He strode outside. The guards followed behind him. Chen Jiudeng waved his hand. "You guys stay here and guard the house. Leader, the gang leader ordered us to bring all the guards. This is to prevent the assassin from killing the other leaders." Xiao Chui said awkwardly. Chen Jiudeng shook his head. "I'm fine. The house needs manpower." "All right, it's decided. Xiao Chui, let's go." He strode away. Only 2 guards were left behind. The rest returned to their original positions. They knew that Chen Jiudeng was very concerned about his wife. They braced themselves to prevent the assassin from taking advantage of the situation. Chen Jiudeng left the house. He did not ride a horse. Instead, he used his light body technique. Along the way, he met the other 2 leaders, Shangji clan's leader and Shangren clan's leader. They were surrounded by a large group of guards. When he entered the living room, he saw the gang leader Ma Tong sitting on the armchair. His face was gloomy. His whole body was boiling with anger. He was about to explode at any time. Chen Jiudeng entered the living room and asked, "Leader, how is Leader Wu?" "He's dead." Ma Tong was tall and strong. He had a red face. He had a pair of phoenix eyes and thick eyebrows. Chen Jiudeng asked, "Did you find out who did it?" Chapter 100. Chen Jiudeng said, "Leader, it's our fault. We didn't notice any martial arts master entering the city." "It's useless to talk about this now," Ma Tong scoffed. "Send our men to find that bastard and kill him." Chen Jiudeng sighed. "I think he has escaped." Not necessarily," Ma Tong said coldly. "Send all our men out and find him even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground." "Leader." Chen Jiudeng pondered and looked at the other 2 hall masters. Ma Tong scoffed, "Just say it, there's nothing you can't say at this time." Chen Jiudeng nodded. "I'm worried that if all our men go out, the faction will be weakened. If that bastard returns, even if he doesn't return, will the Tai Association not hit us when we're down?" Rockwell Association only had 4 hall masters, no guardians or guests. They were considered as the local tyrant in the Town of Clouds, but they could not dominate the Town of Clouds as there was still the Tai Association to counter them. Ma Tong frowned and slowly nodded. Chen Jiudeng said, "After thinking about it, it's most likely that the Tai Association hired a martial arts master." That makes sense," Ma Tong said, "but there's one thing, why did they pick Hall Master Wu?" "Hall Master Wu is the strongest," Chen Jiudeng said, "and he's the biggest threat to the Tai Association." "The Tai Association." Ma Tong squinted his eyes and glanced at the 3 hall masters. "Leader, why don't we attack the Tai Association?" Wu Xinyu, the hall master of Shangji Hall, said, "An army with righteous indignation will win. While everyone's angry, we'll give the Tai Yi Association a good beating." "How's the morale of the Shangwu Hall?" Ma Tong scoffed. Wu Xinyu said, "It's time for us to work together and fight against a common enemy." Ma Tong's expression was uncertain. He thought for a while. Finally, he waved his hand. "Forget it. It was better to be safe than sorry." He had not sorted out his thoughts, and it was a mess. It was not a good time to make a move. He was afraid that someone would purposely muddy the waters and take the opportunity to attack him. Chen Jiudeng sighed and shook his head helplessly. "Chief," Wu Xinyu shouted excitedly, "this is such a good opportunity. It'll be gone if we miss it." Wu Xiniu's body was thin and his face was long and narrow. His complexion was sallow and he looked like a sickly man, but he was a Xian Tian level expert. He was short-tempered and full of wicked ideas. Ma Tong was most suspicious of him. Wu Xinyu felt that Ma Tong was cowardly and stupid. He was unconvinced, but there was nothing he could do. The Hall Master of Benevolence Hall, by Jingren, had a dignified appearance and a dignified expression. However, from beginning to end, he had not spoken a single word. Normally, he was like a clay doll, following whatever the sect master said east and west. He was the most trusted and valued by the sect master. In the end, Ma Thong waved his hand and dismissed his men. He ordered them to be more vigilant to prevent any more assassinations from breaking in. By the time Chen Jiudeng returned to the residence, the sky was already bright. He did not want to disturb his wife, so he went to the study room. As soon as he opened the door, he saw Chu Li sitting in front of the desk with a book in his hand. Chu Li put down the book and smiled. "Clan leader Chen, how was it? You did it?" "Of course." Chen Jiudeng said coldly, "How dare you? Aren't you afraid that I'll shout?" Chu Li laughed. Chen Jiudeng was annoyed by Chu Li's dismissive attitude, but he suppressed his anger. He frowned and scoffed. "You have great martial arts." Chu Li waved his hand nonchalantly. "What do you think, clan leader Chen?" Chen Jiudeng remained silent. Chu Li's action was both a threat and a determination. If he were to reject it, he would definitely end up like clan leader Wu. He had no choice but to lower his head. Chen Jiudeng sighed. "I have a condition," Chen Jiudeng said. "Let's hear it." "Let Qin Xiefeng come back." "Don't you think it's better for Qin Xiefeng to stay there? A 30% tax is too high." 10%. Chu Li shook his head. "At least 20%. If not, our efforts will be in vain. It's not worth it." Chen Jiudeng frowned and looked at him. "Do you think that killing Ma Thong is enough?" Chu Li smiled and shook his head. "Once Ma Thong is dead, you can't be the leader anymore." "Oh!" Chen Jiudeng stared at him unwillingly. Chu Li stood up and tidied his green robe. "Once Ma Thong is dead, the most likely person to be the leader is Bai Jingren. Looks like you know us very well." Chen Jiudeng scoffed. He muttered in his heart. If Ma Thong was dead, would he be able to control the situation? No matter how he thought about it, he was not confident. The four clan leaders were not easy to deal with. The reckless and hot-tempered clan leader Wu was gone. There was still the gloomy and intelligent Wu Xinyu and the deep and reserved Bai Jingren. They were not easy to deal with, let alone dealing with them together. However, it was impossible to get rid of all of them. Otherwise, the Rockwell Association would be finished. Chu Li said, "Clan leader Chen, your reputation is not high enough. You need time to increase it." Chen Jiudeng remained silent. Chu Li said, "My plan is 3 years. 3 years later, you will be the leader and unify the town of Clouds. Then, you will join forces with the startling Cloud Association. We will each take one city and reach the peak of the association." Chen Jiudeng looked at him and scoffed. 3 years. Chu Li looked at him. "Clan leader Chen, do you think it's too long? Is it okay to take 2 cities each?" Do you really think so? Of course, one city is fine too. Chen Jiudeng scoffed guiltily. If they really took over 2 cities, they would not be far from destruction. The House of High Dukes were not to be trifled with. They would not let them become stronger and take over 1 city. The House of High Dukes might turn a blind eye to it. If they took more than 1 city, they would be in danger of taking action. How is the plan? How will you help me? We'll talk about the details later. You can either send reinforcements or pass messages. We have a spy in the Iron Shirt Association. Okay. Chen Jiudeng nodded slowly. He knew that he did not have much of a choice. This was the best he could do. Chu Li smiled. Then we will be a family from now on. If your wife really wants to see Chen Xiefeng, you can go to the town of Clouds to meet him. Chen Jiudeng's face turned gloomy. Chen Li did not leave at all. He was right beside him, and he did not notice. His wife was his weakness. He must have seen through her. Chu Li waved his hand and disappeared in a flash. Chen Jiudeng looked around. Who knew if he had left or if he was right beside him? Being targeted by such a person made him feel uneasy day and night. He could only cooperate with him. Chu Li stopped at the Chen residence for a while. Through the omniscient mirror, he could see Chen Jiudeng's thoughts. Once he became the leader of the Rockwell Association, the 2 cities would be connected. It would be much more useful than just one association or faction. Controlling the underground forces of a city would be very useful. Once he was in power, it would be of great help. He first went back to the town of Clouds and told Chen Jiudeng about it. Chen Xiu was full of praise for Luo Feng. With such a top-notch master by her side, she could sleep peacefully. Chu Li did not meet with Luo Feng. He only looked at him in the dark. Through the omniscient mirror, he saw that Luo Feng was satisfied with his current life. Chapter 101. Small courtyard on Jade Island. Chu Li pushed open the door and stepped into the courtyard. All the pores on his body instantly opened and relaxed. The spiritual force of the glories will tree surged into his body, like a spring cleansing his meridians. All the dust and dirt on his body fell off. Dressed in white, Xue Ling was practicing under the moonlight. Her face was as fair as jade and her movements were as graceful as a crane. Young master. She stopped what she was doing. Chu Li waved his hand and said, "Continue, don't mind me." "Make some supper," Xue said. "Oh right, the chief is looking for you urgently." "What is it?" "I didn't say." Xue shook her head. "It's quite urgent anyway." Chu Li nodded. If it was really an urgent matter, he would probably find out that he was back and immediately come looking for him. Then make more supper. "Yes," Xue answered. She first helped him brew a pot of tea and then walked into the kitchen with light footstep. Chu Li took a sip of the tea. The faint fragrance seeped into his organs. He could not help but sigh in comfort. Home was still the most comfortable. The door to the small courtyard was pushed open and Suru, dressed in an apricot yellow gown, fluttered in. She entered the pagoda and sat opposite him. Chu Li poured a cup of tea and handed it over. He smiled and asked, "Chief, is there really something urgent?" Suru took the white jade teacup and rolled her eyes at him. "You're really steady. What is it?" "It's about the second miss. We're leaving. We'll depart tomorrow." Suru scoffed. "If you come back a day later, you won't be able to make it. The second lady's protector shouldn't be lacking me, right?" Chu Li smiled and took a sip. Suru said snappily, "The emperor is not anxious, but the eunuch is anxious." Chu Li put down his teacup and asked seriously, "Is this assignment very important?" It was not easy for young miss to fight for this. Suru glared at him fiercely. "If you really delay it, it will really be infuriating." Chu Li looked at her in confusion. Logically speaking, the second miss had a lot of guards and didn't need him. So, he was just trying to get some experience. It was not a big deal if he couldn't get it. Suru rolled her eyes at him and scoffed. "Second lady is different from Lady Xiao." Chu Li nodded thoughtfully. The eldest young master and the second young miss were born to the first madam. They had the same father and mother. The third young miss was born to the third madam, while the fourth young master was born to the second madam. The second young miss was born to the third madam because of her mother. Not to mention that amongst the 4 siblings, 3 of them had healthy bodies, and only the second young miss was innately delicate and unable to cultivate. Thus, she naturally received even more love and tenderness. If you can catch the eye of the second lady, it will greatly benefit your position, Su Ru said. Chu Li said, "Thank you for your efforts, Lady Xiao. Although you're a rank 5 martial artist, you've entered the public house too late and you're too young. There's too many obstacles for Lady Xiao to promote you. You don't have enough experience." Su Ru scoffed. "If second Lady Xiao values you, the obstacles will be much smaller." Chu Li nodded slowly. He could guess that in terms of influence on the young master, the second miss was far more influential than the third Mississippi. The second miss valued him, which would affect the young master's decision, and there would be less resistance. "Manager, will the second miss set off tomorrow?" "Yes." Su Ru took a sip of tea and elegantly put down the teacup. "Second lady is going to the Jing Hai Town to celebrate Grand Secretary Kang's birthday." Jing Hai Town? Chu Li pondered. "That's not a good place. The Ren public house has infiltrated it. They'll definitely make a move." "Probably not," Su Ru shook her head. "Lu Yurong wants to kill Lady Xiao. She has no grudge against the second lady." "Is that what Lady Xiao is thinking?" Chu Li frowned. Su Ru put down the teacup. "Is there a problem?" Chu Li said, "Things are different now. The 2 public houses have shed all pretense of cordiality. If there's a chance, they'll definitely make a move. The second lady is not a threat. She doesn't know martial arts and doesn't care about the public house's matters. She has nothing to do with the world. Why hurt her and anger the young master?" Su Ru shook her head. "Once the second lady is hurt, the young master will definitely go crazy. The 2 public houses will definitely go to war. Both sides will suffer. Lu Yurong will not dare to act recklessly." Chu Li shook his head. "They suffered a huge loss last time. They'll definitely take revenge." Su Ru frowned. Chu Li said, "I don't think Lu Yurong will kill the second lady. But if the second lady is kidnapped and the young master pays for the ransom, will the young master give in? Will it affect the public house's morale?" Su Ru frowned. "It's already decided. The second lady will not have too many protectors this time. She doesn't want to make a big fuss and anger the Grand Secretary Kong. He hates people from the martial arts world. How many protectors? This is a top secret. Why would he reveal it?" Chu Li nodded. "Then let's tell the second lady." "It's useless," Su Ru said. "The second lady's personality is different from Lady Xiao. It'll be hard to convince her. Lady Xiao's temperament was like frost and snow. She was cold and indifferent. She was strict on the outside but generous on the inside. She was tolerant to others and was willing to listen to suggestions. The second lady was the exact opposite. She looked as gentle as water but she was very guarded. She would not allow anything to go wrong. Both the young master and the young master inherited the first madam's personality. We'll do our best and leave the rest to fate." Chu Li picked up the teacup. "Young master chief, supper is ready." Xueling used a rosewood plate to serve 4 delicious dishes and a pot of warm wine. She stood behind Chu Li and poured the wine for the 2 of them. The jade-white cups were filled with emerald green wine, making the cups look green. Su Ru held the white jade cup and took a sip. She nodded in satisfaction. "When you're with the second lady, try not to talk too much. The second lady is not that tolerant to others. If you're not careful, you'll offend her. In the end, not only will you not value her, but you'll also hate her." Chu Li nodded and picked up the silver chopsticks to eat. Su Ru picked up a piece of braised meat and chewed it slowly. Chu Li smiled. Then I'll be a mute and won't say a word. That's for the best. Su-Ru smiled. I'm just afraid that you won't be able to hold it in. Chu-Li took a sip of wine and smiled. This is not difficult, right? You'll know if it's difficult or not when you meet the second lady. Remember, the second lady doesn't like people who talk too much. If you want her to like you, you'll have to be quiet. Su-Ru shook her head and smiled. There's one more person. No matter where the second lady goes, she'll bring him along. Oh! Chu-Li looked at her. Su-Ru said, High Official Guomulin. Chu-Li listened attentively. He thought that she was the second lady's maid. Su-Ru was like this. Although they were master and servant since young, they were like sisters. Su-Ru said, This elder Gua's medical skills are extraordinary. The second lady's body is delicate and needs to be nurtured at all times. If she's not careful, she'll fall sick. If it wasn't for Elder Gua, the second lady would have, Chu-Li said. I understand. Don't offend him. Elder Gua only had one son, but he was killed. Su-Ru shook her head and sighed. He only saved people his whole life and never killed anyone. His son was killed by a martial arts practitioner. Think about it, what would he think? So he hates people from the martial arts world? Chu-Li asked. Su-Ru sighed. He hates anyone who practices martial arts. Don't try to please him. The further you stay away from him, the better. Chu-Li nodded. Su-Ru was still worried. She reminded him, In short, your mission is to gain experience, not to be in the limelight. Chu-Li smiled. Stay away from the second lady and don't be in the limelight. It's best if you don't say anything. Stay away from the second lady and High Official Guo. Su-Ru smiled. If you can do it, I'll be relieved. I will. Chu-Li smiled. Su-Ru shook her head. The second lady has 6 grandmasters. No matter how hard she tries, she'll be able to escape. You don't have to worry. Just protect your own life. How many grandmasters are there in the Ren public house? Around 10. So few. Chu-Li was surprised. The Ji dynasty had a total of 12 public houses. Each public house had around 10 grandmasters, so there were more than 100. Including the martial arts sects, the entire Ji dynasty might not have more than 300 grandmasters. It was far less than what he thought. In his mind, compared to modern society, those who had built their foundation were like entering a university. Becoming an innate master was like becoming a professor. Grandmasters were like academicians of the 2 academies. As for enlightened masters, they were like Newton and Einstein. Chapter 102. Young? Su-Ru cast a sidelong glance at him and said, The Ren public house has been strong for the past few years. There are more than 10 of them. Our public house only has 8. I'm afraid the rest of the public houses don't have more than 10. Chu-Li frowned. What about the martial arts sects? There are 4 major sects that can produce 1 or 2 in 100 years. As for the other sects, they can't even produce 1 in 100 years. Su-Ru shook her head and said, Do you think it's that easy to reach the Grandmaster? Even with Mrs. Talent, isn't she still trapped there? Chu-Li asked, Is the Grandmaster's boundary that difficult? Of course it's difficult. Su-Ru smiled. Don't hold on to such extravagant hopes. Your martial art is good enough. You're not really a protector, so you don't need such strong martial art. Chu-Li shook his head. Su-Ru said, The key is still the individual's opportunity. The Grandmaster requires a strong power of understanding. Coupled with a flash of inspiration, that's the opportunity. Chu-Li frowned and remained silent. Su-Ru waved her hand and said, You're getting off topic. Let's talk about the second lady. You're going there to gain some experience. Don't think about showing off. If you do, you might offend the second lady. That would be troublesome. Chu-Li sighed. I've already offended Master Xiao Taiying. If I offend the second lady as well, I'm afraid I won't be able to get out of this predicament, right? With Lady Xiao around, of course I'll be able to make a name for myself. Su-Ru rolled her eyes at him. But you'll need to accumulate experience. Without 20 years, you won't be able to make a name for yourself. Chu-Li nodded slowly. It was indeed better to be safe than sorry. Su-Ru picked up a piece of crystal rib and put it into her mouth delicately. She chewed it slowly and swallowed it. She continued, the second lady has 6 grandmasters. If Lu Yurong really goes crazy, don't stand out. She'll send at least 7 grandmasters. No matter how strong you are, you won't be able to defeat them. Be smart and don't court death. Chu-Li looked at her. Su-Ru looked around and rolled her eyes at him. Your life comes first. You're an innate master. Going against a grandmaster is just throwing your life away. Chu-Li smiled. Thank you, Chief. He was a little moved. If they didn't have enough friendship, these words wouldn't be said. It was a taboo. Su-Ru put down her silver chopsticks and drank the wine in the white jade cup in one gulp. I'm full. You can eat slowly. I'm leaving. After saying that, she waved her hand and walked out of the pagoda. As usual, she came and went like the wind. Chu-Li quickly caught up to her. Before Su-Ru left the courtyard, she reminded him again. I'll come over tomorrow to send you to see 2nd Mississippi get up early. Chu-Li responded. At daybreak, Chu-Li and Xue-Ling were cultivating when Su-Ru, dressed in a light green gown, pushed the door open and entered. Chu-Li immediately stopped writing while Xue-Ling went into the house to retrieve his bag. Let's go. Su-Ru turned around and walked out. Xue sent the 2 of them to the courtyard and stood outside the door, watching them until they disappeared into the depths of the forest. Su-Ru turned around and glanced at Xue-Ling. Her feet were fluttering as she asked, Xue-Ling, you don't have to worry, do you? Much better. She's stubborn, but you're good at torturing people. She's finally done it now. Chu-Li turned his head to look at her. You're not thinking of replacing me, are you? Do you want to trade? Su-Ru smiled faintly. I've just gotten used to it. How can I exchange it? Chu-Li shook his head and smiled. The dishes she cooks are to my liking. This girl's temper is too bad. If it was someone else, she might have caused a lot of trouble. Su-Ru shook her head and sighed. Chu-Li smiled and did not say much. The 2 of them boarded the small boat and sailed on the vast lake. After 15 minutes, a pleasure boat appeared in the mist. The pleasure boat seemed to be moving slowly on the lake, but it was actually moving very fast. The small boat only caught up after 15 minutes. A handsome young man stood on the boat, his blue gown fluttering in the wind. He gave a fist salute and laughed. Chief Su-Ru. Su-Ru said, Hai Qingshan, is the second lady on the boat? Yes. Hai Qingshan nodded. The lady is resting inside. Chu-Li, get on the boat. Su-Ru turned her head and said, This is Protector Hai Qingshan. You can follow him. Chu-Li nodded and floated onto the pleasure boat. He gave Hai Qingshan a fist salute. Hai Qingshan was tall and burly. He had a handsome face. He gave a fist salute and smiled. I'm Hai Qingshan. Brother Chu, I've heard a lot about you. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. Chu-Li gave a fist salute and smiled. I'm flattered. Please give me some pointers, Brother Hai. You're welcome. From today onwards, we'll be working together. Hai Qingshan smiled. I'll bring you to the lady. Chu-Li nodded. Su-Ru's boat floated away. Chu-Li followed Hai Qingshan to the cabin. Hai Qingshan stood in front of the cabin and gave a fist salute. Lady, Brother Chu-Li has arrived. His voice was very soft, as if he was afraid of disturbing the person sleeping inside. Let's speed up. A mellow and gentle voice floated out. Yes. Hai Qingshan replied respectfully. Chu-Li activated the omniscient mirror. The pleasure boat's cabin was divided into 2 sections. In the first section there were 7 elders. They had white hair and a youthful complexion. They were not young. Chu-Li could tell that 6 of them were grandmasters and 1 was an innate master. The second section was decorated elegantly. There was a graceful lady lying on the couch. Her eyebrows were like black ink and her eyes were like limpid autumn waters. She was unbelievably beautiful. Her beauty was enough to cause the downfall of a city. She supported her head with one hand and read a book with the other. Her eyebrows showed signs of tiredness and her expression was languid. She responded to Hai Qingshan casually and yawned. She put down the book and got up from the couch. She opened the window and took a deep breath of the fresh air. Her chest rose and fell violently. Chu Li sighed. The first beauty of the great Ji dynasty really lived up to her name. Every frown, every smile, every movement of hers was beautiful. She did not bring a maid with her. She must have known that the journey would be dangerous. Chu Li quickly turned his attention to the elder innate master. It was Guo Mulan whom Su Ru mentioned. The 6 grandmasters were playing chess. Guo Mulan was sitting at the side with his eyes closed. He sat far away from them. His disgust was obvious. He did not fit in with the 6 grandmasters. Hai Qingshan said, "Brother Chu, you have to be prepared. We will be a scribe on this journey. We will be serving people." Chu Li smiled and nodded. "I am a scribe." "Hee. This scribe of yours is the #1 youth master in our public house." Hai Qingshan laughed. Chu Li waved his hand. "They are just making a fuss. The #1 master? What a joke." Hai Qingshan said, "Zhuo Feiyang is very powerful. I have fought him before." Chu Li activated the omniscient mirror to see what Hai Qingshan was thinking. He realized that Hai Qingshan's words were sincere. Hai Qingshan smiled. "Let's spar when we have time." "All right." Chu Li agreed. Chapter 103. The pleasure boat docked at the shore. There was a lush apricot forest on the shore. Xiao Shi came out of the cabin. A white veil covered her beautiful face, revealing only a pair of eyes that were clear and cold. Her temperament was quite similar to Xiao Qi's. Hai Qingshan put up the plank and got off the pleasure boat with Chu Li. They went straight into the forest. Chu Li followed him for about 10 meters. There was a spacious grassland in the forest. There was a large green carriage with 8 horses. Hai Qingshan turned his head and asked, "Brother Chu, do you know how to drive a carriage?" "Yes," Chu Li said. When he left the mountain, he learned how to drive a carriage from the coachman, Elder Chue. "Thank you, Brother Chu Li," Hai Qingshan said. He untied the reins of the 8 horses and led them out. Chu Li boarded the carriage and cracked the whip. The carriage started to move and followed the horse in front to the shore. Hai Qingshan smiled. "Lady Xiao, Brother Chu Li knows how to drive the carriage. Let Elder Guo rest." "Young man, don't flatter me. I like to drive a carriage," Mulan said coldly. Hai Qingshan laughed and looked at Xiao Shi awkwardly. Xiao Shi said, "Elder Guo, sit with me. Let Chu Li drive." "All right." Mulan agreed helplessly. He stared at Chu Li coldly. "Young man, if you don't drive well, I'll teach you a lesson." Chu Li closed fist saluted and smiled. Mulan scoffed and helped Xiao Shi into the carriage. The carriage was purple in color. It was wide and big. It looked normal from the outside, but it was spacious. The interior was elegantly decorated. It could be laid down no matter how one lay down. Hai Qingshan patted Chu Li's shoulder and said softly, "Don't mind him. Elder Guo is a good person." Chu Li smiled and nodded. Words were useless to him. He did not care what others said. He drove the carriage like he was his own arm. The 4 horses seemed to understand his thoughts. Through the omniscient mirror, he could see the situation on the road and the thoughts of the 4 horses clearly. He adjusted the situation to make the carriage fast and stable. It was not bumpy even on the narrow road. After an hour, they were on a main road. The 6 grandmasters spread out. 4 of them guarded the 4 corners of the carriage, while the other 2 guarded the front and back. Hai Qingshan scouted the way at the front, occasionally disappearing without a trace. He let go of the reins of a horse and let it follow on its own, with 2 large bundles on its back. Chu Li did not care about anything else and only focused on driving. He knew that Guamulin was full of sarcastic remarks, and he was ready to pour them out at any time. Unfortunately, he could not find the opportunity to do so. He could only hold it in, and it was hard for him to do so. Xiao Shi held a poetry collection in her hand. Mulin swallowed his words and took out a medical book to read. Soon, he was immersed in the book. From time to time, he would make a few gestures. His eyebrows were dancing with joy. Time passed unknowingly. Soon, the sun reached its zenith. Hai Qingshan rode his horse to the front of the carriage and cupped his fists. "Miss, there is a small pavilion in front of us. Let's go in and take a rest and eat something." Xiao Shi replied. Hai Qingshan urged his horse to lead the way. Chu Li flicked the whip and the carriage sped up. Soon, they entered a forest. In the forest, there was a mottled old pavilion for pedestrians to rest. It was built by the government. Hai Qingshan untied the 2 large bundles. There were a few wooden boxes and water bags inside. He opened the boxes neatly and took out 4 side dishes and placed them on the stone table. He then distributed some dry food and braised meat to Chu Li and the 6 masters. Guamulin and Xiao Shi sat at the stone table and ate. The 6 masters sat outside the pavilion and guarded it. They ate the dry food and braised meat while looking around and being cautious. Hai Qingshan called out to Chu Li. The 2 of them led the horses far away and untied the reins to let the horses graze on the grass. He sat on the grass and began to eat his dry food. Chu Li also ate his dry food and braised meat. Xiao Shi took off her white veil, revealing her happy and angry face. She took small bites of the food, elegant and calm. She only ate and did not say a word. Guamulin did not speak either. The 2 of them followed the principle of not talking while eating. They ate quietly and slowly. After the meal, Xiao Shi used a silk handkerchief to wipe the corner of her mouth. She tied the white veil again and got down from the pavilion. She strolled in the forest. Her lake green gown fluttered in the wind. The 6 grandmasters followed her closely, surrounding her in the middle, not leaving her side for even a moment. Chu Li finished his dry food and braised meat in a few mouthfuls. Hai Qingshan was still eating slowly. Half an hour later, Xiao Shi returned to the carriage. Guamulin glared at Chu Li before he boarded the carriage. "Brat, why are you in such a hurry?" Chu Li closed fist saluted and nodded with a smile. "Yes, I'm a little slower." Guamulin scoffed. He was annoyed with Chu Li's attitude of not answering back. He could not scold him to his heart's content. It would make him look like he was being unreasonable. He could only scoff and get into the carriage. Xiao Shi sat in the carriage. She pursed her lips and smiled. She shook her head and picked up the poetry book. Chu Li had no other thoughts. He only wanted to be safe. This trip was very secretive. It would not be leaked. However, Lu Yurong was very powerful. He had to be careful. Guamulin sat down and took out his medical book. He scoffed. "Who is this brat?" "Elder Gua, 3rd young lady thinks highly of him. She wants to train him well." "Oh, 3rd lady's favorite." Guamulin scoffed. He nodded and did not say anything else. "What do you think, Elder Gua?" "Of course, the person that 3rd lady likes can't be wrong." "That's true." Xiao Shi looked at the poetry book and said, "He's a very smart guy." Guamulin shook his head. "It's a pity that you don't like smart people." Xiao Shi smiled. She did not care that Chu Li was sitting outside the carriage and could hear their conversation. Chu Li smiled bitterly. Xiao Shi looked lovely and gentle. Just like what Suru said, she was harder to get close to than 3rd lady. He drove the carriage quickly and steadily. It was slower than in the morning. The carriage was more stable. There were more people around them. From time to time, they would meet people riding horses or driving carriages. There were many people on the road. Their group did not attract much attention. They met a few groups of people on the road. A carriage with a few riders was a common arrangement. Although their carriage was a little bigger, it looked simple. It did not look like they were rich. Hai Qingshan rode his horse and rode beside the carriage. My lady, there's a small town in front. Do you want to rest for the night? Yes. Xiao Shi replied. Hai Qingshan whispered to Chu Li, turn left at the intersection in front. There's a North Guard town 50 miles away. Chu Li nodded. He suddenly glanced at the two riders who just passed by and frowned. Hai Qingshan saw that his expression was strange. He asked, "What's wrong?" Chu Li pointed at the two riders. "They're here to scout. Do they want to harm us?" Hai Qingshan's face turned serious. Chu Li nodded. Hai Qingshan frowned. Could it be bandits? Chu Li shook his head as he waved his whip. "I'm afraid they're here for the second lady." Hai Qingshan's face darkened. "You suspect that they're from the Ren public house?" Chu Li nodded. Hai Qingshan said, "I'll go take a look." Chapter 104. After half an hour, Hai Qingshan rode back with a gloomy face. Chu Li glanced at him. Hai Qingshan came to the side of the carriage and whispered, "Lady, the Ren public house really has their eyes on us." Guomulin asked, "Young Hai, how did you find out?" Hai Qingshan smiled. "I pretended to be from the Ren public house and found out." "Look at you, you're quite honest but you're quite smart." Guomulin scoffed. Hai Qingshan scratched the back of his head and smiled embarrassedly. This was not because he was smart but because he learned from others. "Ignore them." Xiao Shi's gentle voice was heard. Hai Qingshan quickly said, "They will definitely harm you, lady. With the 6 high officials here, we don't have to worry about them. I'm just afraid that they came prepared." Hai Qingshan quickly said, "What if they also send grandmasters?" "I know, go." Xiao Shi's gentle voice was soft but Hai Qingshan could not refute her. He shook his head and sighed as he looked at Chu Li. Chu Li whispered, "Can the public house send more masters?" "Grandmasters are impossible." Hai Qingshan shook his head. There were only 8 grandmasters in the public house. Sending out 6 of them was already an overkill. The remaining 2 must not be touched. The public house was the foundation. There were so many spirit medicine, and there was also the eldest master and the third lady. If all 8 grandmasters were to be sent out, it would be unthinkable for someone to take advantage of the situation. If it was not for second lady Xiao Taiying's high position, it would be impossible to send 6 grandmasters. Usually, when Master Xiao Taiying and Lady Xiao Taiying went out, they would only send 4. Chu Li frowned and pondered. It was risky to have 2 grandmasters guarding the public house. The people of the martial arts world saw the public house as a threat. If there was a chance to destroy the public house, they would not let it go. In the current situation, the best way was not to send reinforcements but to besiege the besieged or to mobilize the masters of the Ren public house. Once they were mobilized, they must be accompanied by grandmasters. This would undoubtedly weaken the power of the ambush. As such thoughts flashed through his mind, he hesitated to say it. Second Lady Xiao Taiying hated smart people. If he said it, he would definitely be suspected of showing off. He took a deep breath and whispered, "Lady Xiao Taiying, I have something to say." "Speak." Xiao Shi's gentle voice was heard. Chu Li said, "We have to transfer their grandmasters away." "What a joke." Mulin scoffed. "Do you think the grandmasters will listen to you?" Chu Li did not seem to hear what he said. He calmly said, "Write a letter and ask Master Xiao Taiying to find a way to mobilize a few masters from the Ren public house. The grandmasters will definitely accompany them." "That's easy for you to say. How can they be manipulated by an outsider?" Mulin mocked without holding back. Chu Li's expression did not change as he said, "Master Xiao Taiying should have a way." "That's a great idea." Xiao Shi chuckled. "But it won't be easy. They're not fools." Chu Li smiled. There were many ways to make them leave the mansion. If one plan did not work, then another. He did not believe that they would be able to stay in the mansion. It was a pity that he did not have any power, so he could only sigh helplessly. There was no point in saying more, and it would only make them feel disgusted. That's just a bunch of useless nonsense. What other ideas do you have? Mulan scoffed. Chu Li said, if it really doesn't work, Lady Xiao will leave with us. You mean, you're out in the open, and I'll sneak away so that you can attract their attention? Chu Li replied, yes. If we can't win, we'll just run. With Xiao Shi there, he could not run even if he wanted to. Below the Grandmaster, I'm afraid that you won't be able to run even if you want to. Xiao Shi said lightly, I understand. Chu Li tactfully kept his mouth shut. Mulan said in a low voice, this young man's idea is not bad. It's better if we split up. Elder Mulan, we can't. Xiao Shi shook her head lightly. Mulan said impatiently, once we start fighting, you'll be a burden to them. You can't run even if you want to. Why would I be afraid of these evil tricks? Xiao Shi said calmly but firmly, what has the House of High Dukes become? You. Mulan shook his head helplessly. With that temper of yours, you'll suffer in the end. A man should know when to yield and when to stand tall. You're a woman, why do you care so much? Saving your own life is the most important thing. Xiao Shi said, I'd like to see what the Ren public house is going to do. They'll kill you. Mulan scoffed. Master Xiao Taiying will definitely go crazy. The House of High Dukes will be finished. Elder Mulan. Xiao Shi glared at him in dissatisfaction. Mulan pursed his lips and scoffed. Do you think I'm just scaring you? Think about it. If you die, will Master Xiao Taiying go crazy? Don't worry. Elder brother is wise under the guise of stupidity. He'll be able to calm down during crucial moments. Xiao Shi said. You stubborn girl. You're so infuriating. Mulan stood up angrily. He lifted the curtains and left. When he reached the outer cabin, the 6 grandmasters looked at him and shook their heads helplessly. Mulan snorted and sat down on the chair. He could not persuade this stubborn second lady. The worst thing was that she was not afraid of death. She felt that life was boring. She was sick and weak. Living was torture. When faced with this kind of person, no amount of persuasion would help. Chu Li turned left and drove for 50 miles. He entered the North Defense town in the evening. Although the North Defense town was small, it was very lively. It was located beside the main road. It was inevitable that people would come here for a stroll, a meal, or to spend the night. This made the small town bustling. Hai Qingshan had already rented a house in advance. He did not stay in an inn. It was a house with 2 entrances. After settling down, Hai Qingshan busied himself with the work of a scribe. He was neat and tidy. It was obvious that he was familiar with the job. Chu Li could not help much. He went out to buy things according to the list that Mulan had written down. He ran around and brought back the vegetables and meat. Mulan personally cooked. Soon 2 tables of dishes were ready. One table was full of color, smell, and taste. There were a lot of meat dishes and the other table was light. Xiao Shi and Mulan ate the light food. Chu Li and the others ate in the main hall. Xiao Shi and Mulan were in the study room next to it. The 8 of them were eating to their heart's content. An old man suddenly frowned. The 6 of them looked at each other. The old man put down his chopsticks and floated out. Pring-pring sounds rang out incessantly. Chu Li activated the omniscient mirror. He saw that the old man named Zhao Qingshan floated up to the wall. He pushed his palm out. A man fell from a tree branch 20 feet away. The man rolled on the ground and jumped up. He turned around and ran. Zhao Qingshan threw a punch. The middle-aged man who jumped 30 feet away flew out and hit the wall. He closed his eyes and fainted. Zhao Qingshan floated over and picked him up. The middle-aged man suddenly opened his eyes. A cold light shot out from his sleeve towards Zhao Qingshan. Zhao Qingshan chuckled and shook his body slightly. The blue dagger stopped halfway and fell to the ground with a ding. The middle-aged man was shaken by Zhao Qingshan. He could not exert any strength. He was paralyzed. Zhao Qingshan carried him back to the main hall. He threw the middle-aged man on the ground and sat down to continue eating. Chu Li stared at the middle-aged man and looked at the scene in his mind. Hai Qingshan put down his chopsticks and walked towards the middle-aged man. He asked, "Ren public house?" The middle-aged man closed his eyes. The only part of his body that could move was his eyes. Zhao Qingshan said, "Qingshan, be careful. This guy is very cunning. Don't be fooled." Hai Qingshan nodded. He stared at the middle-aged man's eyes and said, "How many of you are here? Where do you plan to set up an ambush? If you don't speak, don't blame me for being rude. Under torture, you will have to speak even if you don't want to." Hai Qingshan saw that the middle-aged man did not speak. He patted him 3 times. Chapter 105. In the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the middle-aged man was sweating profusely. His mouth opened and closed, but he couldn't speak or even make a sound. Chu Li knew that Zhao Qingshan had sealed his mute acupuncture point. Zhao Qingshan ate his food leisurely and didn't even look over there. This was to force the middle-aged man into despair, and then unseal his acupoints so that he could grasp a glimmer of hope and spit out everything he knew. "It's about time, Elder Zhao." Hai Qingshan turned his head and looked at Zhao Qingshan. If he continued, someone would die. Zhao Qingshan shook his head and said, "Qingshan, you are still too soft-hearted." Hai Qingshan smiled embarrassedly. He was not soft-hearted when it came to killing people, but he could not bear to see others suffer. He would rather end them with a sword. An old man beside him said calmly, "With Elder Guo here, it'll be hard to die even if you want to." Zhao Qingshan put down his chopsticks, stood up and slapped the middle-aged man's back. "Ugh!" The middle-aged man let out a strange cry. The pain contained in his voice was so real that everyone could feel it. Hai Qingshan heaved a sigh of relief and stared at the middle-aged man. "Tell me and I'll let you go. If you don't, I'll kill you. You're really letting me go?" The middle-aged man's voice was hoarse as he stared at him suspiciously. He felt that it would be difficult for him to escape death. He only wanted to die a quick death. He knew this when he first came here. Hai Qingshan scoffed and said, "Even if you go back, you won't dare to say that you've been caught and confessed. Otherwise, the Ren public house will definitely kill you. If you act like you don't know anything, you'll still have a chance to live. Besides, you're just a nobody. Killing you will only alert the enemy." The middle-aged man rolled his eyes. He felt that it made sense. He did have a chance of survival. "Hurry up and say it," Hai Qingshan snapped. "If you delay any longer, your partner will get suspicious." "All right, I'll speak." The middle-aged man heaved a heavy sigh. He forced himself to be alert and said, "We're just here to scout. We won't be participating in the operation. I heard that Lady Xiao has sent 5 grandmasters." "5?" Hai Qingshan frowned. "Only 5?" The middle-aged man hurriedly raised his finger and swore an oath. Hai Qingshan frowned and waved his hand. The middle-aged man quickly got up and leaped into the night. Chu Li saw the image in the middle-aged man's mind. He was not lying. Unfortunately, this person's status was too low to be trusted. Lu Yurong might have kept them in the dark. She might even have predicted that they would be captured and used them to pass on false information. In short, whether it was true or false, it was useless. Hai Qingshan frowned and sat in front of the table. He picked up his chopsticks absent-mindedly and put a piece of beef into his mouth. He chewed slowly. "Elder Zhao, do you think he's telling the truth?" "It looks like there's no problem," Zhao Qingshan said. 5 grandmasters. Looks like Lu Yurong didn't expect Second Lady to bring more people this time. Hai Qingshan smiled, his expression relaxed. Usually there would only be 4 grandmasters, but this time they brought a lot of them. This was because the High Duke's public house had used Gu Litong to deal with a group of innate masters from the Ren public house. They were worried that the Ren public house would retaliate. Chu Li glanced at Hai Qingshan. Zhao Qingshan said, "Little Chu, do you have something to say?" Chu Li said, "Small? Lai Nai Chong Ju Qin Cnmo. Are you saying that Lu Yurong might even lie to her own people?" Zhao Qingshan frowned and asked. Chu Li nodded. Zhao Qingshan thought about it and sighed. "We have to be careful. That girl is too cunning." Hai Qingshan smiled disapprovingly. "Elder Zhao, it's all about strength. No matter what tricks she has up her sleeves, as long as we're strong enough, we'll be able to face them head-on. There's nothing to be afraid of." "Tricks are still very useful," Zhao Qingshan smiled. "All right, no matter what, all we can do is to be careful and not let them have any chance to take advantage of us. If the situation is really bad, we'll run away with Lady Xiao." Everyone nodded their heads. They would just have to stay put to deal with the changes. On the second day, when they were hurrying along, there were knights passing by from time to time. There were 2 or 3 of them, sometimes 5 or 6 of them. They stared at them unscrupulously as if they were ready to attack at any time. Even if Zhao Qingshan and the others caught a few of them, it was useless. Zhao Qingshan and the others were worried, but they could not show weakness. If they were caught, they would cripple their martial arts. In 2 days, Zhao Qingshan and the others had crippled 8 of their martial arts. Unfortunately, they were all acquired masters, which did not affect the strength of the Run public house. Chu Li only cared about driving and did not care about anything else. It was estimated that they would arrive at Grand Secretary Kang's residence in 5 days. Along the way, there were people who tried to provoke them, but nothing happened. Xiao Shi did not know what was going on outside as she quietly read her book. In the evening, the sun was setting. The group stopped in front of a small hill. There was a broken temple on the hill. They were prepared to rest in the temple for the night. This temple stood alone on a small hill. Buddhism was flourishing in the current era, but the temple had fallen to such a state because of its location. There were few people around, and without people and incense, even the best temple would fall into decline. There were 2 holes in the door of the temple. The Buddha statue in the temple was broken and incomplete. The angry King Kong only had 1 eye left. Hai Qingshan and Chu Li cleaned the place and laid a moonlight felt mat on the floor. Xiao Shi stepped on the felt mat and sat on a round stool that was just made of wood. She looked around and nodded. "Since we're outside, let's put up with it. There's no need to work anymore, Qingshan." "Yes, lady." Hai Qingshan replied respectfully. Hai Qingshan took out a wooden box and placed 4 dishes on the table. He then distributed dry food and braised meat to the group. Chu Li caught a few deer and picked some wild vegetables and mushrooms. He used the pot that he brought to cook a pot of meat soup. The group ate to their heart's content. It was midnight and the moon was hanging high in the sky. Chu Li was on night watch. He sat still. His body was one with the earth and his mind was one with the night. He felt the silence of heaven and earth. Suddenly, he activated the omniscient mirror. He noticed that there were 7 gray-robed elders floating towards them as fast as the wind. Chu Li opened his eyes and let out a long whistle. Zhao Qingshan and the others woke up immediately. On a newly made bed in the temple, Xiao Shi, who was lying on her side, woke up as well. She frowned and looked outside the temple. Hai Qingshan rushed towards Chu Li. Zhao Qingshan and the others leaped onto the roof of the temple. 2 of them entered the temple and stood guard beside Xiao Shi. Hai Qingshan shouted, "Someone's here." Chu Li stared at the direction of the 7 gray-robed elders. "Brother Hai, if something's wrong, run with Lady Xiao Shi." Hai Qingshan nodded and looked at the direction Chu Li was looking at. "How many?" 7. Chu Li said. "Only 7? Hai Qingshan sighed in relief. "They could be grandmasters." Chu Li shook his head. "Looks like they've found out about us and are about to make a move. 7 grandmasters could easily suppress 6 grandmasters. The remaining grandmaster was more than enough to deal with an innate master. It was a foolproof plan. Lu Yu was ruthless and accurate. In the time it took to say a few words, The 7 gray-robed elders appeared and pounced into the temple. Hai Qingshan wanted to go up to them, but Chu Li grabbed him. Going up would be suicide. Hai Qingshan struggled. Chu Li quickly said, "Brother Hai, don't mess around. They are grandmasters." "All of them?" Hai Qingshan stopped struggling and frowned. "How would we know if we don't try?" Chu Li said, "Wait." Chapter 106. Hai Qingshan's expression changed. He stopped struggling. 6 of them faced off against 6 others, while the remaining grandmaster floated towards the carriage. Chu Li's expression changed. Hai Qingshan struggled to get out. Chu Li disappeared in a flash. Hai Qingshan staggered and quickly stopped himself. He then used all his strength to run towards the carriage to block the elder in gray. Second Lady Xiao Shi did not know any martial arts and her body was delicate. She could not be frightened. Although Elder Guomulin was an innate master, it was just a cultivation level. He did not practice any powerful martial art. He would not be able to withstand a single blow. Once the elder in gray went over, Second Lady Xiao Shi would not be able to survive. Thinking about this, Hai Qingshan was anxious. His body felt like it was on fire. His speed was much faster than usual. He shot towards the carriage like an arrow. He wanted to block the elder in gray even if he had to risk his life. He did not care if he was a match for a grandmaster. A green shadow flashed in his eyes. Chu Li appeared in front of the carriage. He shrunk his body and went inside. Bang! The carriage was torn apart and pieces of debris flew everywhere. Chu Li held Xiao Shi in one hand and Guomulin in the other as he stood on the carriage. "Good boy!" The elder in gray shouted and punched in the air. Chu Li disappeared in a flash and appeared 2 feet away. He raised his voice and said, "Brother Hai, I will leave first. There is no need to fight with them." He disappeared in a flash. There was a clear mark of a fist at his original position. Hai Qingshan stopped moving. He widened his eyes in disbelief. He let out a sigh of relief and almost fell to the ground. Chu Li held the 2 of them and disappeared from everyone's sight. The elder in gray snorted and chased after him. If Chu Li escaped, they would lose all their face. 7 grandmasters were dispatched, but they could not defeat a weak girl. How could they enjoy the Republic House's offerings? A short pine tree stood proudly in the wind, its twigs twisting. Suddenly, the figures of Chu Li and the other 2 appeared out of thin air under the tree. Chu Li let out a long sigh and let go. Xiao Shi's face was pale. Mulin did not look good either. He pushed Chu Li away and said angrily, "You are so clumsy. If anything happens to young Xiao Shi, you will be the one to blame." Chu Li also felt that something was not right. Xiao Shi's body was as light as a feather, soft and boneless. She was far more fragile than he had imagined. The few flashes that she made to break through the void would be unbearable to most people. It was even more unbearable than the pilots of the future generations breaking through the speed of sound. It was a few times worse than being in a state of weightlessness. Xiao Shi bent over and retched a few times. She waved her hand. Mulin rubbed her back carefully. He did not want to scare her. He asked softly, "Are you all right? Do you feel uncomfortable?" Xiao Shi took out a silk handkerchief from her sleeve and wiped the corner of her mouth. A smile appeared on her pale face, making her look extremely weak. "It's nothing, Chu Li saved us." "Humph, I really don't know if he's trying to save or kill me." Mulin glared at Chu Li. Chu Li smiled awkwardly at his thoughtlessness. Mulin scoffed, "If you do it again, Xiao Shi will be dead." Chu Li said helplessly, "Elder Guo, we can't just wait for death, right?" Mulin scoffed and turned his head away, ignoring him. He asked in a low voice, "Shika-chan, how was it?" Xiao Shi coughed twice and forced a smile. "I'm much better now." Her limpid eyes fell on Chu Li's face. She smiled, "Thank you so much, Chu Li." Chu Li said, "Lady Xiao Shi, you're too kind. It's my duty. We better not stop for too long. They might catch up." You're so fast. How can he catch up? Mulan said in disbelief. He doesn't have a dog's nose. Chu Li shook his head. A Grandmaster's senses are far better than a normal person's. They might be able to smell it. Lady Xiao Shi and Elder Gua, please change your clothes. I'll go first. He was about to leave. Wait. Mulan quickly said, Where are you going? Chu Li said, I'm going back to see if I can lure that guy back. How? Mulan asked. If I kill one, he will naturally go back. You're so arrogant. You can kill a Grandmaster? Where there's a will, there's a way. I'll give it a try. Chu Li looked at Xiao Shi helplessly. It was supposed to be a simple matter. All he had to do was to bring Xiao Shi away and not let the opponent catch up. However, Xiao Shi's body was so weak. She could not withstand the speed of the light body technique. Even if he did not use imminent skyline, normal light body technique would not be able to withstand it. He estimated that the Grandmaster could catch up to them. They could not escape either. The only way was to go back. There might be a chance when they were unprepared. Only luring the Elder away would not solve the problem. As long as the Elder ignored him, he would not be able to do anything. He alone was not his match. A sneak attack would be useless. If he wanted to sneak attack, he would have to sneak attack the 6 people who were fighting. There was still a glimmer of hope. If he made a sneak attack and crippled one of them, he could lure the Elder back. The masters of the Ren public house saw that there was no hope of success. They gave up. Grandmasters cherished their lives. Take this. Mulan threw a black porcelain bottle over. Chu Li reached out and caught it. He looked at Mulan. 7 miles against the wind. Mulan scoffed, Open this in the wind. No matter how powerful your martial arts is, you won't be able to block it. Chu Li was surprised. It can charm a Grandmaster? So what if he's a Grandmaster? Mulan scoffed. As long as he's a mortal, he'll fall. Chu Li was dubious. If he really had this thing, the Grandmasters would not be so scary anymore. Xiao Shi shook her head. Elder Mulan, tell the truth. Don't hurt him. Mulan scoffed. All right, Grandmasters won't be charmed so easily. They're smarter than monkeys. When the cork is pulled out, they'll sense the danger and stop breathing. Chu Li nodded slowly. He kept it in his sleeve. If he used it at the right time, it might be effective. His face changed. He knew something was wrong. The Elder appeared in his omniscient mirror. He was 3 miles away. He could catch up with them in a few breaths. He seemed to know where the 3 of them were hiding. He stepped on the treetops and went in a straight line. He thought quickly. His body flashed and appeared 100 meters away. After 2 flashes, he was already a mile away. He let out a long whistle. When the Elder heard the whistle, he stopped. He thought for a while and smiled. He continued to go in a straight line, ignoring Chu Li. Chu Li saw the situation in the omniscient mirror. He sighed. His plan could not keep up with the changes. He could only go forward. The Elder suddenly sped up. He was like an ethereal shadow. In a blink of an eye, he was a mile away. He threw a punch at Xiao Shi from 100 feet away. Chu Li felt bitter. He helplessly flashed and appeared in front of Xiao Shi. He took the punch head-on. Bam! His face flashed gold. He swung his hand and a cold light shot out. Chi! The cold light broke through the air like silk. The Elder dodged. He wanted to avoid it, but he hesitated. Then, his body trembled and flew out. Chu Li fell limply. The golden light faded from his face. It was as pale as lime. The Elder flew 10 meters away. A flying knife was stabbed in his heart. The blade went into his body. Only the handle was left. He was not dead yet. He struggled to sit up. He looked down at his bleeding heart. He looked up and stared at Chu Li. Chu Li's mouth was bleeding, but he was smiling. Xiao Shi's face changed. She looked at Chu Li. How could a Grandmaster's attack be so easy to block? Mulan quickly went forward to check on Chu Li's injury. Chu Li waved his hand with difficulty. He climbed up little by little. He moved in front of the elder. He slowly pulled out the long sword from his waist and swung it. The cold light flashed. The elder was beheaded. Blood spurted out more than 10 steps away. Chapter 107. He took a blow from a grandmaster. The infinite azure sea was 5 folds. His meridians were destroyed and his organs were displaced. Chu Li spat out a mouthful of blood. His breathing was weak. Mulan rushed over and pressed on Chu Li's wrist. He took out a jade porcelain from his pocket and poured out the pills inside. 5 dark green pills were stuffed into Chu Li's mouth. Chu Li suddenly trembled. A mouthful of blood gushed up and the pills were forced out. Mulan panicked. He quickly poked Chu Li's chest and picked up the pills. He did not care about the mud and stuffed them back into Chu Li's mouth. He said, "Swallow it." Chu Li grinned and swallowed the pills. Spiritual energy surged into his body from all directions, nourishing his body and maintaining his vitality. If he did not have the life and death scripture, he would not have dared to do this. No matter how serious his injury was, as long as he was still breathing, the life and death scripture could save him. "You brat, you're really ruthless." Mulan saw him swallow the pills and sighed in relief. He shook his head and sighed, "You're playing with your life." Xiao Shi looked at the decapitated body of the elder in gray. She looked calm. She slowly came to Chu Li's side and whispered, "Elder Guo, will he be okay?" "Not good." Mulan held Chu Li's wrist and shook his head. "He's too badly injured. This brat is too cruel to himself." Chu Li tilted his head and looked at Xiao Shi. Xiao Shi squatted down and sighed, "Chu Li, it's been hard on you." Chu Li smiled and did not say anything. He was afraid that he would not be able to stop the blood from flowing out. "Lady Xiao! Lady Xiao!" Hai Qingshan shouted from afar. Mulan channeled his energy and shouted, "Young Hai, over here!" Hai Qingshan quickly ran over. When he saw Chu Li lying on the ground, he was stunned. He quickly went forward and was shocked again. He saw the horrible state of the elder in gray. "Lady Xiao, are you all right?" Hai Qingshan asked. Xiao Shi shook her head, "I'm fine." Hai Qingshan looked at Chu Li on the ground. "Brother Chu, are you badly injured?" Chu Li smiled. There was blood at the corner of his mouth. His smile made him look even more tragic. Mulan waved his hand and said, "All right, don't talk to him. You guys go over there and wait. I'll give him acupuncture. Don't get distracted." Xiao Shi lowered her head and glanced at Chu Li. She turned around and slowly walked to a tree. She leaned against the tree and sat down. Hai Qingshan quickly stopped her. He took off his clothes and laid them on the ground. He then let her sit on his clothes. Mulan took out a small box from his pocket. He opened it and saw 2 rows of silver needles. The needles shone brightly under the watery moonlight. He helped Chu Li up. 36 needles quickly pierced Chu Li's body from all directions, making him look like a porcupine. "Don't circulate your power," Mulan said. "I'll help you to digest the effects of the drug." Chu Li's voice was hoarse and dry as if it had been smoked. It was difficult for him to speak. "Thank you, Elder Guo." "Sigh." Mulan shook his head. "Stop talking." He suddenly stopped talking and looked at Chu Li in surprise. Logically speaking, after suffering such heavy injuries, his injuries should have worsened and he should have fainted, unable to maintain consciousness. He then felt Chu Li's pulse. It did not seem to have weakened. It seemed that the medicine had taken effect. Hai Qingshan ran over. "Elder Guo, is Brother Chu Li all right? From the looks of it, he won't die anytime soon." Mulan put down Chu Li's wrist and nodded. "If he can keep his life, then God has opened his eyes." Then, Hai Qingshan was about to ask, but he quickly stopped and looked at Chu Li. Mulan looked at him and said unhappily, "You want to ask if he can keep his martial arts?" Hai Qingshan smiled embarrassedly. Mulan sneered, Look at the situation now and you're still thinking about martial arts. Martial arts, what's so good about it? Hai Qingshan knew that he had poked Guomulan's heart. He quickly said, Yes, there's nothing good about martial arts. You people who practice martial arts. Guomulan glared at him and waved his hand impatiently. Get lost, go away? Hai Qingshan scratched the back of his head in embarrassment and went back to Xiao Shi. Xiao Shi glared at him. Hai Qingshan understood the meaning behind her bright eyes. He was asking to be humiliated. Chu Li smiled bitterly to himself. The inner energy of the fifth layer was like a flood rushing through a small river. Wherever the flood passed, the river would be destroyed. If the inner energy was not of the fifth layer, it would be impossible to kill a grandmaster. He relied on the scripture of life and death, the minute pulse cleansing technique, the sentient menace, and the torso opening pill. That was why he dared to be so reckless. Guomulan felt his pulse again. It was gradually getting stronger. The medicine was starting to take effect, and he would slowly get better. He stood up and went to Xiao Shi, let me take a look at you. Xiao Shi handed over her snow-white wrist. Guomulan felt her pulse and let out a sigh of relief. It's all right, it's not a big problem. I'll have to take care of it for a while. I can't go through any more trouble. Xiao Shi whispered, Is Chu Li okay? Sigh. Guomulan shook his head. He wanted to perish together with the grandmasters. It's already a blessing from God that he's still alive. He can't keep his martial arts. Xiao Shi furrowed her brows slightly. Guomulan said, His meridians are badly damaged. He's a cripple. Xiao Shi shook her head lightly. Guomulan smiled. But it's good that he doesn't have his martial arts. Xiao Shi, you'll take care of him anyway. It might not be a bad thing for him to live a peaceful life. Xiao Shi's bright eyes turned and glanced at the porcupine-like Chu Li. She sighed softly. At his age, everyone thinks the same. He thinks that martial arts is more important than his life. I'm afraid he won't be able to recover from this setback. That won't be the case, Guomulan smiled. He's tough on himself. He won't collapse that easily. Don't worry. Xiao Shi looked at Chu Li and nodded lightly. After an hour, Zhao Qingshan and the rest of them floated over. Their clothes were torn and tattered. They didn't have their usual temperament. They were in a sorry state. Lady Xiao Shi. They saw that Xiao Shi was safe and sound. They were overjoyed. Xiao Shi let out a smile. You've all worked hard. Zhao Qingshan and the rest of them rushed to her. They saw that her face was only a little pale. There was nothing unusual. They let out a long sigh of relief. They felt lucky. When the 7 masters attacked, they couldn't even take care of themselves. They couldn't do anything. Only then did they have the mood to look around. They saw the decapitated corpse of the man in gray. They looked at Chu Li, who had needles all over his body. They were shocked. Young Chu killed him? Guomulan rolled his eyes. If we waited for you guys to come, we would have been dead. Young Chu, he. The 6 of them looked at Chu Li in surprise. As grandmasters, they knew that there was a huge difference between an innate master and a grandmaster. No matter how powerful an innate master was, he couldn't kill a grandmaster. Young Chu perished together with that guy. His martial arts couldn't compare to that guy, but his life was tougher. Guomulan shook his head. Zhao Qingshan and the rest looked at Chu Li in surprise. Chu Li could kill a grandmaster. He must have cultivated a powerful martial art. There was a huge difference between masters of the same level. The key was still the power of martial arts. Under extreme circumstances, it was not impossible to surpass the level. Chu Li must have been young. Facing the unparalleled beauty of the second lady, he sacrificed himself to protect her. He exploded with a shocking power and coincidentally killed a grandmaster. Lady Xiao Shi, should we continue? Zhao Qingshan frowned. The Ren public house is going to fall out with them. Chu Li coughed. Guomulan walked closer to him. Say it? You're still worried at a time like this? Chu Li whispered. We should inform the public house immediately. You're really worried. Look at the situation now. Just focus on healing your wounds. Guomulin said impatiently, Don't worry about the rest. Chu Li said, I want Brother Hai to help me send a letter to the third lady. Hai Qingshan quickly said, No problem. Chapter 108. What letter? Guomulin was annoyed. What are you worrying about? Chu Li said, 7 grandmasters have been dispatched. I think Lu Yurong is here too. They won't let this go easily since a grandmaster is dead. There are only these few of us, we will definitely die. Moreover, this is a good opportunity to kill Lu Yurong. Guomulin touched his wrist and scoffed. You have quite a lot of vitality. He did not expect the medicine to be so strong. Although he had consumed a few spirit pills in one go, it was not enough to make a dying person so energetic. Xiao Shi frowned and nodded. Qingshan, you go. Yes, lady. Hai Qingshan closed fist saluted. Lady, let me do it. Zhao Qingshan said, I can send Chu Li back. All right. Xiao Shi looked at Chu Li. Chu Li quickly said, Third lady. Xiao Shi looked at him quietly. Chu Li said, Senior Zhao Qingshan can't leave. I don't know when Lu Yurong will come. What about you? Xiao Shi asked. Chu Li pondered and shook his head. I can't leave either. Xiao Shi looked interested. Chu Li said, I have a deep grudge with the Ren public house. If I leave lady's side, they will kill me immediately. Xiao Shi smiled. They want to kill you more? I'm afraid so. Chu Li nodded helplessly. Xiao Shi smiled. So you're afraid of death too? I'm afraid of being killed for being useless. Chu Li said, If I stay with Lady Xiao Shi, there will be many seniors around. If I leave their protection, Lu Yurong will definitely kill me. Guomulin asked curiously, Why do you have such a big grudge with Lu Yurong? Chu Li smiled bitterly. Zhao Qingshan smiled and shook his head. Elder Zhao, you know? Guomulin stared at him. Hurry up and tell me. Zhao Qingshan smiled. Didn't you destroy the Ren public house's prestige a while ago? White Stone Town. Hai Qingshan blurted out. Zhao Qingshan looked at Chu Li and smiled. White Stone Town killed 24 innate masters. Young Chu Li was the one who started it. Do you think Lu Yurong wants to kill him? She wants to tear him apart. Mulin nodded. Now that I've fallen into Lu Yurong's hands, I don't think it'll be easy for me to die. She'll torture me for a while. Chu Li nodded. So you're a meritorious person, Xiao Shi said with a smile. All right then, why don't you follow me, old Gua? He's right. He has to follow us and take care of him at all times. Mulin scoffed. His injuries are too serious. Xiao Shi turned her head and said, Qingshan, go back and tell Big Brother about what happened here. Listen to his orders. If I leave, what about here? Hai Qingshan asked worriedly. The lady needed to be served, and the 6 elders and high official Guo were not suited to serve others. In addition, there was Chu Li, who needed to be served even more. Without him around, it was hard to imagine what they would do. Just go. Mulin scoffed. Do you think we'll starve to death without you? Hai Qingshan looked at Xiao Shi. Xiao Shi smiled and said, Go, come back quickly. Yes. Hai Qingshan fist saluted and looked at Chu Li. Chu Li waved his hand with difficulty. Hai Qingshan leaned over curiously. Chu Li lowered his voice. Don't go too fast. Be careful of being intercepted. I know. Hai Qingshan said. He used his light body technique and dashed away. Soon, he entered the forest. It was not a peaceful journey. They had to guard against the Ren public house's attack. Riding a horse would be too obvious and easily exposed. They had to send the news back as soon as possible and get reinforcements. If the Ren public house attacked again, the lady would be in danger. Zhao Qingshan said, Lady, let's go somewhere else. Xiao Shi nodded slightly. Can Chu Li move, old Gua? Slower. Mulin said, Unfortunately, the carriage was damaged by Chu Li. Chu Li smiled embarrassedly. Mulan stared at him and turned his head. Elder Zhao, hurry up with the carriage. Zhao Qingshan turned around and glided away. Soon, the carriage arrived. The remaining horses were also brought over. The 8 horses ran in 8 different directions to divert the enemy's attention. Chu Li sighed. They were all veterans in the martial arts world. They were experienced. Without the carriage became a flatbed. Chu Li lay on the soft brocade quilt. He closed his eyes and absorbed the spiritual force from all directions to nourish his body. Coupled with the surging heat from his lower abdomen, his body recovered quickly. After walking for an hour, Chu Li suddenly said, "Lady, they're here again." "The Ren public house?" Xiao Shi opened her eyes. She was sitting on Chu Li's left with her eyes closed. Chu Li nodded. Mulan sat on his right and frowned. "How did you know?" "Intuition." Xiao Shi tilted her head and looked at him. Mulan said, "Elder Zhao, is someone coming?" Zhao Qingshan nodded slowly. "We need to find a place to hide." With the lady around, they could not escape. They could only fight. Unfortunately, Hai Qingshan would not be able to make it in time. It was a tough battle. Fortunately, they killed the Grandmaster. Otherwise, they had no chance of winning. "There's a cave over there." Chu Li pointed at the mountain next to him. "Brother Gua, bring the lady and young Chu Li there. We'll lure them away." Zhao Qingshan turned his head. He could only trust Chu Li now. "All right." Mulan nodded helplessly. Chu Li did not want to come up with any ideas. He did not want others to think that he was smart. However, he could not take it anymore. Zhao Qingshan was a grandmaster, but he did not have the talent to deal with a crisis. He coughed lightly. "Elder Zhao, if they see that we're not here, they'll definitely send someone to search for us. They'll find us soon." "That's true." Zhao Qingshan frowned. With Chu Li's reminder, he knew that his decision was wrong. The 3 of them did not have any power to fight back. If they were found, they would definitely die. It was better to follow him. At least they could protect themselves. "Let's go together," Chu Li said. Yes, yes." Zhao Qingshan nodded. "Let's go together." Mulan shook his head. "Elder Zhao, you're far from being smart." Zhao Qingshan said impatiently, "You're not any better. We're the boss, not the second." Xiao Shi looked at Chu Li and said softly, "Then let's go up the mountain." Everyone sped up. When the carriage arrived at the foot of the mountain, Mulan carried Chu Li on his back and supported Xiao Shi. Soon, they were halfway up the mountain. They looked around but did not find any cave. Chu Li pointed on Mulan's back. "Over there." Mulan looked over and widened his eyes for a while. "There's no cave." "I say, young Chu, have you been here before?" "You'll see it when you peel off the vines," Chu Li said. Zhao Qingshan followed the direction he pointed and came to the front of the stone wall. The dense vines covered the stone. It was almost impossible to see the color of the stone. He pulled at the dense and thick vines. Suddenly, he stopped and laughed. "There really is a cave. I'll go in and have a look." He leaped up and entered the cave. After a while, he popped his head out and waved at the others. Mulan chuckled and said, "Not bad, Chu Li. There really is." Mulan supported Xiao Shi. There was a layer of sweat on her fair and smooth forehead. Her face was pale. She looked lovely and pitiful. Zhao Qingshan rearranged the vines to cover the cave. They walked for about 10 meters and reached the end. They looked for a place to sit down. "Young Chu, if they really find us, we'll all die." Mulan turned his head and looked around. He shook his head. "It's like catching a turtle in a jar." Chu Li said, "They won't be able to find us here." "That might not be true." Mulan scoffed. Zhao Qingshan quickly waved his hand, signaling him not to speak. Chu Li's omniscient mirror saw that there were 14 people at the foot of the mountain. There were 6 grandmasters and 8 innate masters. They followed the traces of the carriage and did not stop. Chu Li let out a sigh of relief. Under such circumstances, he could only take a gamble. If they found them, it would be a dead end. Chapter 109. Then what should we do? Mulan quickly asked. How did they find us? Chu Li said, they should have a tracking master. Senior Zhao, it's useless to hide anymore. We can only fight. Zhao Qingshan frowned and looked at him, then at Xiao Shi. Lady, let's lure them away. Yes. Xiao Shi nodded. Zhao Qingshan said, Elder Guo, I'll leave this to you. Can you guys do it? Be more reliable. Mulan scoffed. Don't let them lure us away and make us all the scapegoats. There's still a chance of survival if we lure them away. Zhao Qingshan said. All right. Hurry up. Mulan waved his hand. Zhao Qingshan and the others floated out of the cave and rushed up the mountain. They let out a long whistle at the top of the mountain. Chu Li watched through the omniscient mirror. 14 people surrounded the top of the mountain. 6 were in front and 8 were behind. They quickly reached the top of the mountain and fought with Zhao Qingshan and the others. The 8 innate masters tactfully left the battlefield. From Zhao Qingshan's point of view, the 8 innate masters were their weakness. They rushed towards the 8 innate masters. 6 grandmasters tried to stop them while the innate masters tried to escape. However, it was like sheep running into wolves. Zhao Qingshan took the opportunity and hit a middle-aged man 20 feet away. The middle-aged man was like he was hit by a flying boulder. He flew out and spat out a mouthful of blood. He fell to the ground and did not move. The other 7 innate masters were terrified. They ran for their lives and soon disappeared in front of Zhao Qingshan and the others. The 6 grandmasters also tried to stop them. If Zhao Qingshan and the others killed people in front of them, they would not be able to face anyone. The 12 grandmasters were locked in battle. Invisible palm energy and fist energy intertwined in the air, causing sand and stones to fly and leaves to swirl in the air. It was as if a violent wind was blowing. The momentum was extremely shocking, and it scared the 7 innate masters so much that they did not dare to come close. Chu Li frowned. The 7 innate masters gathered together and headed towards him. Chu Li's expression suddenly changed. Mulan said, What's wrong, Chu Li? Why do you keep changing your expression? Chu Li quickly put his index finger in front of his lips. Elder Guo. Mulan's expression changed too. He lowered his voice. Have they found us? Chu Li nodded with a serious expression. Mulan frowned and turned to leave. Chu Li quickly blocked him. Mulan was afraid that Chu Li's body was weak, so he dared not use too much strength. Chu Li whispered, Let me do it. Are you crazy? Mulan lowered his voice and shouted, Don't you know what's going on? You still want to fight? Chu Li said, I know what I'm doing. Like hell I know. Mulan cut him off. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. Xiao Shi whispered, You guys want to fight. There's no need for that. Shika-chan. Mulan turned to look at her. Xiao Shi said, Lu Yurong wouldn't dare to kill me. Elder Guo, take Chu Li away. Xiao Shi, don't talk nonsense. Mulan said angrily. Xiao Shi chuckled. Lu Yurong is so smart. She knows the consequences of doing this. If she kills me, Big Brother will definitely start a war. Chu Li looked at Xiao Shi. Xiao Shi glared at him. Say it, it's already come to this. Chu Li sighed. I'm just afraid that Lu Yurong is trying to provoke Master Xiao Taiying. Xiao Shi's eyes narrowed as she pondered. Chu Li sighed to himself. Fate was really hard to predict. It gave the third lady unparalleled beauty, intelligence and wisdom. Unfortunately, it did not give her a healthy body. Compared to the latter, she would rather not have the former too. Chu Li gently pushed Mulan away and went to the entrance of the cave. He looked at the 7 innate masters that were slowly approaching. 400 meters, 300 meters, 200 meters, 50 meters, 40 meters, swoosh, swoosh. Chu Li swung both of his hands at the same time. 2 beams of cold light shot out. He spat out a mouthful of blood and staggered backward. He leaned against the stone wall and used the stone wall to support his body. The blade pierced through the air and instantly pierced through the throats of two masters. They covered their throats and widened their eyes unwillingly. They fell to the ground with their faces facing the sky. The other 5 were shocked and quickly retreated 100 meters. They hid behind the rocks and looked left and right. Chu spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale, but his expression was calm, as if he was not the one who was hurt. Mulan shook his head and sighed at Xiao. Xiao understood what he meant. Chu was going to die. As the lady of the public house, it was her duty for the protectors to sacrifice themselves to protect her. Although she was grateful, she would not feel too much about it. Everyone had their own destiny. Smart people cherished their own bodies. Chu was so smart that he calmly faced death. It suddenly moved her. Chu leaned against the stone wall and sighed. His meridians that had improved greatly were damaged again. They were on the verge of collapse. He might really become a cripple. However, he was very confident in the scripture of life and death. With the scripture of life and death, no matter how damaged his meridians were, he could still recover. Even if his martial arts were to be completely crippled, it would not be a big deal. Turbulent spiritual energy flowed from the mountain, nourishing his body and healing his injuries. Mulan took out a jade bottle from his pocket. He poured out the only red pill and passed it to Chu. Chu directly stuffed it into his mouth. A stream of clear air went straight to his lower abdomen and turned into a rolling hot current. His whole body felt like it was immersed in hot water. It was extremely hot. His body suddenly felt a lot more relaxed. He felt like he was walking on air. His injuries were instantly reduced by half. Mulan shook his head and glanced at the 2 exquisite flying knives in Chu-Li's hands. No matter how good the medicine was, it could not stop him from doing this. He could only do his best. The scene outside appeared in Chu-Li's mind. Zhao Qingshan and the others were in a stalemate. The 6 grandmasters of the Ren public house were obviously trying to entangle them. They took a defensive position. Zhao Qingshan and the others were anxious and kept attacking. The 5 innate masters were all dressed in gray. After lying on the ground for a while, they once again crouched down and jumped towards the cave. They could vaguely guess the direction of the flying knives. Tsk tisk. 2 cold lights shot out again. 2 innate masters fell to the ground with their hands on their throat. They were dead. The remaining 3 quickly crouched down and hid behind the rock. They did not dare to move. Cold air was coming out of their bodies. 4 of them died, and they did not even see the opponent. They had heard from their superiors that they should be careful. Chu was very powerful. They had already raised their guard. They did not think that Chu was even more powerful than they had imagined. Blood gushed out from the corner of Chu-Li's mouth. His face was pale. He slid down to the ground like a pile of mud. The 3 of them crouched behind the rock and looked at each other. They all had the intention to retreat. Go. Let's go. One of them said. The other 2 nodded. They crouched down and quietly retreated. After retreating 100 meters away, they ran towards the top of the mountain. Zhao Qingshan saw that they had returned. His face changed. He attacked even more fiercely. He was ready to die together with them. A grandmaster of the Ren public house shouted, "Young son, did you find him?" An innate master said with a bitter face, "Sir Meng, there are only 3 of us left. Chu killed 4 of our brothers. Where is he? He should be nearby. You didn't see him?" No. Useless. The grandmaster knew what was going on. They were scared away. He shouted, "Call the others over." Yes. The Xiantian expert took out a signal tube from his bosom and threw it into the sky. It immediately exploded and formed a red cloud that didn't disperse. Zhao Qingshan and the others' faces changed. Chapter 110. Hearing the sound of an explosion, Mulan crawled to the entrance of the cave and carefully looked outside. He saw the red clouds in the sky that did not disperse. His expression changed drastically. Oh no, those guys have called for reinforcements. Chu Li's face was pale but he smiled. Mulan touched his wrist and sighed helplessly. I'm still breathing. Your life is really tough to be able to withstand so much pain. Chu Li smiled with difficulty. It's all thanks to Elder Mulan's pill. Sigh. I only have one. If I don't have one more and you attack me again, not even the Luo Jinxian can do anything about it. Mulan frowned in pain and scoffed. Don't try to be brave anymore. Chu Li said, it's better to die like this than to be killed by others. That's true. Mulan nodded. He turned to Xiao Shi and said, Young Shi, it looks like we're going to die here. Xiao Shi smiled calmly. If we die, then so be it. Death was a form of relief. Living was suffering and despair. There was no difference. Chu Li said, Elder Mulan, there's always a way out. At this time, there's still a way out? Mulan scoffed. Elder Zhao and the others are too much. Chu Li said, if it wasn't for Elder Zhao and the others, we would have been dead. Only grandmasters could deal with grandmasters. Without Zhao Qingshan and the others, he could only kill one but not two. He would have died for sure. Bang! A dull sound echoed in the sky. It sounded like thunder in spring. Mulan quickly looked up and said in disbelief, It's our signal. How can it be ours? Xiao Shi said, Qingshan can't be that fast, right? Chu Li smiled. It's the third lady. Xiao Shi was extremely smart. She immediately understood the situation. She looked at him deeply. Looks like you're prepared. Hai Qingshan went back and Xiao Qi came back. It was impossible for her to be this fast. She must have intercepted Hai Qingshan on the way here. Chu Li said, I left a mark along the way. The lady will be able to find us. The third sister must have been on guard against Lu Yurong. Xiao Shi nodded and said slowly, They fought a few rounds and understood each other. Elder Mulan, is his injury really okay? You won't die, but you won't live well. Mulan glared at Chu Li. Chu Li was not too worried. The life and death scripture was mysterious and endless. He could handle it. He suddenly smiled. Third miss is here. Mulan leaned against the entrance of the cave and looked around. Where is it? A clear whistle resounded, like a crane soaring through the 9 heavens, and a white figure fluttered over. Mulan laughed. It really is the third lady. Chu Li let out a long sigh of relief. His body was completely limp as he leaned against the stone wall. Mulan parted the green vines and waved his hand. A white shadow flashed and the entrance of the cave darkened. A faint fragrance floated in the air as Shao Qi, who was dressed in white, appeared in front of them. Elder Guo, second eldest sister. A smile appeared on Shao Qi's cold face. Are you all right? Xiao Shi shook her head lightly. I'm fine. Xiao Qi's bright eyes fell on Chu Li, as if the cave was lit up. Her slender eyebrows furrowed slightly. Mulan said, Chu Li's injuries are very serious. He needs to recuperate. His martial arts can be considered as crippled. It's good that he's alive, Shao Qi said. Chu Li gave a fist salute and smiled bitterly. My lady. Shao Qi said, let's go. Mulan carried Chu Li on his back, while Shao Qi helped Xiao Shi up. The 4 of them came down from the cave and landed in front of a group of innate masters. Hai Qingshan quickly greeted Xiao Shi. My lady. Xiao Shi nodded gently. Chu Li glanced at the 20 or so innate masters. All of their eyes were shining with killing intent. They were all elites who had been through many battles. Qingshan, go and bring the carriage here, Shao Qi said. Hai Qingshan gave a fist salute and rushed out. The carriage arrived quickly. It was the same carriage without a compartment. Shao Qi helped Xiao Shi up. After Xiao Shi sat down, she said, Let Chu Li come up with us. Chu Li did not reject. Mulan placed him in the carriage and jumped onto the carriage driver's seat. Shao Qi said, I'll go and see Elder Zhao and the others. Chu Li quickly said, My lady, there's no need to go. The battle scene of Grandmasters was similar to the battlefield in the future. Stray bullets flew everywhere and one could get hurt if they were not careful. Xiao Qi's martial arts was high, but she was still an innate master. It was too dangerous to get close. Xiao Qi glared at him and fluttered away. Chu Li shook his head helplessly. Through the omniscient mirror, he saw Xiao Qi fluttering up the mountain. Without hesitation, she went into the fierce battle between the 12 people. The long sword on her waist flashed and she stabbed at a red-haired elder. It was Zhao Qingshan's opponent. Zhao Qingshan was shocked and quickly called out, Third Lady. He was shocked. This was a battle between grandmasters. An innate master would be courting death if he came. If anything happened to the Third Lady, he would not be able to redeem himself even if he died 100 times. His opponent showed a disdainful smile and pointed his finger. Qi. With a light whistle, a finger energy shot through the air towards Xiao Qi. Xiao Qi used a strange step technique and moved forward to avoid the finger energy. The tip of her sword stabbed at the red-haired elder. The red-haired elder was shocked. Her step technique was a little strange, but he did not care much. An innate master was not a problem. He struck out with his palm and the surging palm energy collided with the long sword. He expected the long sword to fly out of his hand. The tip of the sword faced the palm energy like a fish swimming against the current. The palm energy made the sword even faster. Before the red-haired elder could react, the tip of the sword had already pierced through his palm. She quickly retreated behind Zhao Qingshan. Zhao Qingshan saw the opportunity and attacked wildly, not giving the red-haired elder a chance to stop the bleeding and heal. No matter how powerful a grandmaster was, he would not be able to withstand the bleeding. He quickly retreated and looked for help. The deadlock was broken. Go! The red-haired elder shouted. The 6 of them disappeared in front of the crowd like a tornado. Xiao Qi was afraid that they would go after Chu Li and the others. She quickly said, Go back! Zhao Qingshan and the others quickly returned to the crowd. When they realized that everyone was fine, they let out a long sigh of relief. If Xiao Qi did not personally bring people to help, the consequences would be unimaginable. The crowd continued to move forward. Soon, they arrived at a small town. They got 2 carriages, one for Xiao Shi and one for Chu Li. Chu Li laid on the carriage, swaying. The spiritual force from all directions kept entering his body, nourishing his body and alleviating his discomfort. His internal injuries were not light. Even the slightest movement would cause unbearable pain. The life and death scripture had endless uses. He could clearly see his injuries rapidly healing and his meridians were slowly strengthening. While he was bored, he suddenly had an idea. He multitasked. He controlled the surging spiritual force to nourish his body while visualizing the art of white tiger portrait. The invisible force from the void rushed in and strengthened his body. The spiritual force of the life and death scripture was like wine while the energy of the art of white tiger was like medicine. When the two were combined, the effect was multiplied. When he felt tired, he stopped visualizing and looked at his body with the omniscient mirror. He realized that his injuries had healed a lot. The effect was far beyond his imagination. With this method, he was confident that he would only need 6 to 7 days to recover. Chapter 111. The curtain of the carriage suddenly moved and a fragrance drifted in. Xiao Qi appeared in front of him. Chu Li stopped channeling and struggled to sit up. My lady. Xiao Qi waved her hand and gestured for him to lie down. She said, All right, Chu Li, the hero saves the damsel in distress. Chu Li smiled bitterly. Xiao Qi looked at him. Your martial arts are crippled. What are your plans? She already understood what happened through Guomulin. She had mixed feelings. Chu was smart, strong in martial arts, and had amazing talent in spirit herbs. In the future, he would be her right-hand man. That was why she painstakingly trained him to increase his experience. She did not think that this arrangement would have such consequences. He risked his life to protect second elder sister. She did not know what to say. It was not a big deal to cripple his martial arts. To him, talent in spirit herbs and a smart mind were the most important. Martial arts was not that important. As long as his status was high enough, there would naturally be protectors. She was afraid that Chu would become decadent because of this. Martial arts meant everything in this world, especially to a man. It meant dignity. Without strong martial arts, no matter how powerful he was, it would be like a floating cloud. Otherwise, her father would not have isolated himself all year long and abandoned the position of High Duke in order to break through to the enlightened mastery's boundary. His martial arts was crippled because he saved second elder sister. In the end, it was her fault. It made her feel guilty. Chu smiled. "My lady, it's not that serious. Elder Guo's medical skills are amazing." Xiao Qi shook her head. She thought that he did not want to accept the situation. She said, "Calm down and recuperate. Don't think too much. I still need your help." Chu said, "It's a pity that I didn't see Lu Yurong this time. She won't show up easily. She won't let others gossip about her," Xiao Qi said. The High Duke's public houses were not allowed to fight. This was a rule set by the imperial family. They did not want to waste the country's power because of internal strife, which would cause them to lose control of the martial arts world. No matter how they planned or assassinated, it would be covered up. Once Lu Yurong showed up, it would be a real weakness. Chu frowned. "What about the High Duke's public house?" "It's okay if the Grand Duke doesn't leave the public house." Chu frowned. "Master Xiao is impulsive and emotional. It is too easy to move him." "Master Xiao is impulsive and emotional. It is too easy to move him." Xiao Qi smiled. "Big brother won't be fooled so easily. He's still calm during crucial moment." Her eldest brother was usually impulsive, but when it came to the big picture and the responsibility was on his shoulders, he knew what was important and would not act recklessly. She was very relieved. Chu was relieved when he saw how confident she was. Xiao Qi took out a white jade porcelain and handed it to him. "This is a spirit blessing pill. Try it." Chu took it. "Thank you, lady. When we return this time, you should stay on the island obediently." Xiao Qi said, "It might not be a bad thing." Chu smiled bitterly. "It'll be very boring. Life will be boring." "You'll have something to do," Xiao Qi said. Chu perked up. Xiao Qi noticed the change in his expression and shook her head. "Do you like being an official that much?" Chu smiled. "Compared to martial arts, I prefer power. This kind of power is more wonderful." "Power is better than martial arts?" Xiao Qi asked. Chu smiled. "I'm lazy by nature, and power is more to my liking. Everything will be done by others, and I don't have to do it myself." Xiao Qi said, "Then you can be the chief of Glorysville Courtyard." Glorysville Courtyard? Chu thought for a while. "I don't think there's one in the public house?" "I'm going to build Glorysville Courtyard when I return," Xiao Qi said. "It'll be the inner courtyard of Jade Guardian Island." "My courtyard?" Chu smiled bitterly. Xiao Qi nodded. "Why? Do you think the official position is too small?" Chu quickly waved his hand. "Why do you want to build Glorysville Courtyard, lady? Your courtyard is gradually becoming popular. There's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in this world. Instead of people prying, it's better to display it openly," Xiao Qi said. "Wonderful." Chu praised and thought about it. People are so ignorant that they often turn a blind eye and divert their attention. They won't be able to see the true use of Glorysville Courtyard. The existence of Glorysville Tree would make Glorysville Courtyard a treasure trove of rare spirit herbs. Instead of letting people doubt this, It was better to use other things to divert their attention and cover their eyes. To cover the eyes of others, walls would not work, but other things could. People's hearts were the easiest to be deceived. Shao Qi said, "In addition to supervising the public house's rules, I'm also responsible for eliminating spies. I'm going to assign the spies to Glory's Will courtyard." Chu Li looked at her in surprise. The matter of spies was very important. It was the most confidential matter. After all, he had only been in the public house for a short time. How could he be in charge of this matter? Shao Qi said, "You're very observant of people's hearts. You're the most suitable person for this matter." Chu Li sighed. "I'm afraid there'll be a lot of resistance." "You don't have to worry about that. Just do it well. I believe Big Brother will agree," Shao Qi said. "Thank you, lady." Chu Li of course did not refuse and closed-fist saluted. Shao Qi said, "Think carefully about what you need. Once you return, you'll start working." "Yes." Chu Li nodded. Shao Qi stood up and left. Chu Li smiled. He had finally come into contact with power. This was a blessing in disguise. He opened the jade porcelain and found a total of 3 snow-white pills. They were the size of a longan. After taking one, he instantly felt a surge of heat throughout his body. His injuries recovered a lot. This spirit blessing pill was definitely not an ordinary item. While his body was still warm, he activated the sentient menace. Traces of heat flowed in his body and floated towards the invisible meridians. A solid and heavy feeling rose in his heart. It was as if the meridians had become tangible objects. They were constantly being strengthened and became thicker and tougher. A golden glow appeared on his body. At first, it was a pale yellow, then a golden yellow, and then a purplish gold. His whole body seemed to have turned into a purplish gold statue. The door curtain moved and Mulan entered the carriage. The golden glow on Chu Li's face quickly disappeared. Mulan sat down and reached out his hand to touch Chu Li's wrist. He suddenly looked at him in surprise. Chu Li said, "Lady Xiao, give me a bottle of spirit blessing pill." Mulan snatched it away and opened the jade porcelain. He looked at it and sniffed it. He looked intoxicated. "Spirit blessing pill. Lady Xiao is really good to you." Chu Li smiled but did not say anything. Mulan stuffed the jade porcelain and carefully passed it to him. "Take it. It's the spirit blessing pill. It's a life-saving item." Chu Li said, "What's the effect of the spirit blessing pill?" "As long as you're still breathing, you'll be able to hang on for a day." Mulan scoffed. "Think about it. For martial arts practitioners, 1 spirit blessing pill is equivalent to 1 life." Chu Li suddenly understood. Mulan stared at him fiercely. "The spirit blessing pill is not the right treatment for your illness. Your meridians are damaged but your body is recovering well. You won't die. Taking this is a waste of God's gift." "Then I won't eat it." "Keep it." Mulan scoffed. "You'll need it in the future." Chu Li smiled. "Elder Mulan, will my martial arts really not recover? What's so good about martial arts?" Mulan stared at him. "Fighting and killing. Sooner or later, you'll die by the sword. You're doing well now. You can stay in the public house and live peacefully for the rest of your life. That's your blessing." Chu Li smiled. "Looks like Elder Mulan has a way." "No," Mulan scoffed. Chu Li laughed. "That's true. With my current situation, most people really can't do anything." Mulan clenched his teeth. "Brat, such a cheap trick. I won't fall for it." Foundation building heart cultivation methods are everywhere on the street. You can just pick any one of them. Even the poorest people will be able to practice it, unless they are not suited for martial arts. Chu Li came to a realization and could not help but shake his head. He missed out on building his foundation because he was in seclusion in the temple, studying the scripture of the great wisdom transcending origin. He didn't have the heart to care about other things, so he didn't think about practicing martial arts. In today's world, building one's foundation was like getting vaccinated in modern society. It was a necessary step and really wasn't a rare thing. Mullen said, "This set of acupuncture is perfect for your current situation. But it's too dangerous. I've been hesitating on whether to use it or not. I still think it's better not to say it." "Where is the danger?" "The acupuncture points must be identified accurately. There can't be a single mistake." Mullen shook his head. "You've read medical books before. You should know that everyone's acupuncture points are different. There are subtle differences. And the 9 transformation meridian reforming technique requires every acupuncture point to be accurate. Even the slightest mistake will be fatal." Chuli pondered and nodded. He could see through the human body. Of course, he knew that everyone's acupuncture points were different, just like how everyone's height was different. "Elder Mullen, can I learn this set of acupuncture techniques?" "Why do you want to learn this?" "I think this set of acupuncture techniques is amazing. I want to study it," Chuli said. "I want to find out how it changes the meridians." "It's fine if you learn it, but you're not allowed to use it," Mullen scoffed. He couldn't give himself acupuncture, so he was not worried that Chuli would mess around. He also wouldn't let others use it. It was no different from killing someone. Chuli was overjoyed. "Thank you, Elder Mullen. Wait, I'll go get it for you." Mullen got off the carriage and quickly came back. He handed Chuli a thin booklet with the words, 9 Transformation Meridian Reforming Technique, written on it. Chuli flipped through it. There were 13 pages, 109 acupuncture points. The acupuncture technique for each acupuncture point had strict requirements. The needle depth, silver, gold, wood, turning, straight, deep and then shallow and then deep, or soft and then deep, or soft and then deep, or soft and then deep. Chuli flipped through it again. He closed his eyes and thought about it. The pages were clearly imprinted in his mind. He raised his head and looked at Mullen. He met his mocking gaze. Chuli smiled. "It's quite complicated. Now you know how powerful it is?" Mullen scoffed. "Do you think medical skills are that simple? Has Elder Mullen used this set of acupuncture techniques before?" "No." Mullen shook his head. "I'm old. When I got this acupuncture technique, I was too old. My memory has deteriorated and I can't remember it. Moreover, it's too exhausting. I can't persist and it'll cost people their lives." Chuli smiled. "How about I try?" "You?" Mullen laughed and shook his head. "Let's not talk about whether or not you can identify the acupuncture point. Let's talk about these acupuncture techniques. Do you know them?" "Elder Mullen can teach me," Chuli said. Mullen scoffed heavily. "Do you think it's that easy to learn? What's the harm in learning?" "All right, I'll teach you. But I'll only teach you once. If you can't learn it, then forget it." "Thank you, Elder Mullen." Mullen angrily took out the box of needles and explained to Chuli which were the long needles and which were the short needles. Then, he demonstrated how to use the needles in one go. After that, he passed one of the long needles to Chuli. Chuli smiled and demonstrated again. There was no mistake in the acupuncture technique. Mullen curled his lip. "Young man, you're not being honest. You've learned it before, haven't you?" Chuli shook his head. Mullen scoffed. "All right, even if you haven't learned it before, there's more." Then, he used the force-feeding method to explain to Chuli all his insights and special techniques in using needles. Chuli repeated it word for word. This made Mullen understand that Chuli had a photographic memory. He was as gifted as the third lady. "All right, young man Chu." Mullen's eyes were shining. He laughed. "Learn medicine from me. Since your martial arts has been crippled, you can focus on medicine. You'll definitely become a miracle doctor." Chuli smiled. "Can I use the 9 transformation meridian reforming technique?" "If you practice well, it's possible." Mullen nodded. But you can't use needles on yourself. You better give up. Chuli had a photographic memory. He could clearly remember the acupuncture techniques for all 109 acupuncture points. This solved a big problem. Chuli said, "Elder Mulin, help me with the needles." "Me?" Mulin frowned. "I don't dare to mess around. My life will be in danger if I make a slight mistake." Chuli smiled. "Let me identify the acupuncture points. I can still identify my own acupuncture points. I'll just use a pen to mark them." Mulin hesitated. "You can identify your own acupuncture points?" A martial artist who had been practicing martial arts for a long time would have the ability to look inside. They would know their own acupuncture points. After practicing martial arts for a long time, they would be able to sense the acupuncture points on the meridians. However, it was difficult to identify the acupuncture points outside of the meridians. Mulin was an innate master. Of course, he knew this. Chuli said, "Elder Mulin, you don't know that I've been practicing meditation for more than 10 years, right? I have a lot of experience in self-observation." "You can look inside?" Mulin asked. Chuli nodded slowly. Chapter 113. Even if he wanted to try, he could not do it right away. He had to find a quiet place. In the evening, when the sun was setting, they entered an inn in a small town. Chuli, Xiao Shi, and Shao Qi were arranged to stay in a small courtyard surrounded by protectors. There were 6 grandmasters in the courtyard. The west room was lit with 9 tallow candles. It was as bright as day. Chuli sat cross-legged on the bed, naked except for his shorts. His body was marked with 109 red and black spots. Mulin opened the 3 rows of silver boxes on the table. There were wooden needles, silver needles, and gold needles. Shao Qi stood at the side. She looked at the red spots on his body calmly, as if Chuli was still wearing clothes. "Third lady, if I run out of energy later, give me an energy pill." Mulin picked up a wooden needle and told Shao Qi. Shao Qi nodded. "Okay, then let's start." Mulin nodded. The wooden needle was about to pierce Chuli but stopped. "Is the spirit blessing pill ready?" Shao Qi nodded. Mulin took a deep breath. His face was solemn. Chuli opened his eyes and sighed. "Elder Mulin, hurry up and start. I won't die." "You shut up." Mulin glared at him. "Stop saying inauspicious things." Chuli closed his eyes again and began to use his inner vision. "If the needle is not right, I will tell you." "Okay." Mulin scoffed. "If there's anything wrong, tell me immediately." Chuli said, I know. Hurry up." Mulin took a deep breath and slowly pierced the wooden needle. Chuli said, "No problem." Mulin pierced another wooden needle. Chuli continued to judge if it was right or not. After a while, all 30 wooden needles were pierced. Every needle was precise and there were no mistakes. After the 36 needles, Mulin wiped the sweat off his forehead. At least he did not make a mistake. However, it was easy at the beginning and difficult at the end. The more he did it, the easier it was to make a mistake. Once he made a mistake, the risk would be higher. After the 36 silver needles were pierced, Mulin was sweating profusely. Shao Qi stared at Chuli. She saw that Chuli spoke calmly and his expression was calm. It was as if the needles were not pierced on him. She was here to save him if there was any danger. Mulin looked at the golden needles in the box and gritted his teeth. Gold needles were softer, and precise control of them required inner strength. If he was not careful, he would be in danger. He needed to insert the needles perfectly, which was much more difficult than using wooden needles or silver needles. Shao Qi said, "Elder Gua, take a break." Mulin hesitated for a moment and nodded. Shao Qi picked up the porcelain bottle on the table and passed it to him. Gua Mulin swallowed a vitality pill and wiped his sweat. "Kid, be careful. If anything goes wrong, tell me immediately." Chuli smiled and said, "Elder Gua, just go ahead and apply the needles. I'm not that delicate." You little bastard! Mulan scoffed. He picked up a golden needle and shook it lightly. The needle turned into a straight line and slowly pierced into Chu Li. He inserted the needles very quickly. In a short while, he had inserted 36 needles, and only the last one was left. Chu Li observed his body. He did not feel anything when the 108 needles pierced into his body. It was very strange. In normal acupuncture techniques, there would be a feeling when one pierced an acupuncture point. If one pierced more, the feeling should be stronger. However, this set of acupuncture techniques was the opposite. At the beginning, there was a numbness, but as the needles pierced into his body, the feeling became weaker and weaker. In the end, it was as if his whole body was anesthetized. Mulan was sweating profusely. He wiped the sweat off his forehead. His bloodshot eyes stared at Chu Li's acupuncture point. The golden needles trembled slightly as if they were about to fly out. Mulan was channeling his inner strength through the needles. This last needle required a unique heart technique. The golden needles slowly approached Chu Li's acupuncture point. Mulan's face became more and more serious. Chu Li also stared at the golden needles. When they got close to his acupuncture point, a golden light flashed and the needles pierced into his acupuncture point. Buzz! A soft whistle came from Chu Li's throat. The 109 needles shook violently at the same time. It was neat, like the wind blowing through the wheat. Chu Li felt that all the pores on his body had opened up. They were frantically swallowing the spiritual energy from the void. The spiritual energy surged into his meridians and continuously strengthened them. Chu Li suddenly had an idea. He suddenly activated the sentient menace. His whole body flashed with a golden light. His naked body looked like it was covered with a layer of golden powder. It was also emitting a golden light. It was as if he had turned into a golden Buddha. Mulan widened his eyes and looked at Shao Qi. Shao Qi shook her head and said, "There shouldn't be a problem." Mulan pointed at Chu Li. This was too abnormal. "This is a martial art," Shao Qi said. Mulan nodded. He did not expect the sentient menace. After all, it was the antique study of the Tempest Temple. No one else dared to cultivate it. As time passed, the golden light on Chu Li's body gradually changed. It became darker and darker. It became a purplish gold. In the purplish gold, there was a hint of golden light. It was solemn and holy. It made people want to kneel down. Unknowingly, half an hour had passed. The golden light on Chu Li's body converged and suddenly disappeared. Needles shot out from his body like a hedgehog. A cold light flashed on Shao Qi's waist. Ding 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 ding. All the needles that were shot at her and Mulan were deflected. Chu Li opened his eyes. A golden light flashed in his eyes. The smile on his face spread like water ripples. He could not help but laugh out loud. This time, it was a blessing in disguise. He had successfully cultivated the 4th stage of the sentient menace. Mulan quickly said, "Young man, how is it?" Chu Li smiled and said, "Elder Gua, thank you." Mulan said, "Is it done?" "Yes." Chu Li nodded. Mulan's eyes lit up. He laughed out loud. "Good. Good." Chu Li put on his green robe and smiled. The 9 transformation meridian reforming technique is really amazing. I was lucky. Mulan was so happy that he could not close his mouth. He shook his head and sighed. What a pity, what a pity. Chu Li's inner vision was very powerful. He could clearly see his own acupuncture point. Changing another one would not work. So, the 9 transformation meridian reforming technique could only be performed on him. Other people could not do it. He could not perform it with his own ability. It was a pity. Shao Qi said, "Your martial art has improved, right?" "I've mastered the 4th stage." Chu Li smiled. Shao Qi raised her eyebrows slightly and looked at him in surprise. The 4th stage of the sentient menace was an extremely high level. It was almost invulnerable. Even if it was a Grandmaster's inner energy, it could block half of it. Guomulan's smile disappeared. His face darkened and he scoffed. Martial art again. Chu Li said, God has not given up on me. Elder Gua, I have to thank you for this. There is no good ending for martial arts. Guomulan glared at him. He did not even keep the needles. He turned around and opened the door to leave. Xiao Qi shook her head and laughed. This Elder Gua had a knot in his heart. She could not help it. She looked at Chu Li. Are your injuries healed? Chu Li got up from the bed and rotated his arm. He smiled and said, I've fully recovered. That's good. Xiao Qi said, You stay in your original state for now. Chu Li smiled. I'll be a surprise soldier? Yes, just in case. I hope I don't have to. Yes. For the next few days, Chu Li kept lying down. He pretended to be seriously injured and observed the situation around him. He found that there was no one to harass him. The Ren public house seemed to have disappeared. They were no longer interested in this group of people. Chapter 114. In the afternoon, Chu Li suddenly knocked on the carriage. Xiao Qi rode beside his carriage and asked softly, What is it? My lady, I'm a little worried. Let's catch someone from the Ren public house and ask, Chu Li said. Are you worried that Lu Yurong will go against Chongming Town? It's possible. Don't worry, Big Brother won't fall for it. Let's ask. All right. Xiao Qi called someone over and gave a few orders. Soon, they caught a spy half a mile behind them. The carriage stopped and everyone sat in the woods to rest. Chu Li was helped down from the carriage and sat on a bluestone. A middle-aged man stood in front of him. His appearance was ordinary and he did not look out of place in the crowd. He stood there obediently without moving an inch. Xiao Qi stood beside Chu Li and looked at the middle-aged man. You're from the Ren public house. You don't have to deny it. Tell us honestly and we'll let you go. She interrogated him personally because she was the third lady of the public house. She would keep her word and the other party would believe her if she said she would let him go. Moreover, she wanted to see through his thoughts and get the truth. Yes, the middle-aged man said softly, I'm indeed a protector of the Ren public house. What's your name? Xiao Qi asked gently. I'm Hu Ren, the middle-aged man answered immediately. Xiao Qi asked, Is that your real name? Yes, the middle-aged man quickly said, I dare not lie to you. My name is Hu Ren. Xiao Qi looked at him calmly and signaled to a protector beside her. The young protector stepped forward and hit the middle-aged man's back, causing him to fall. He then stepped on his right palm and said coldly, You're tired of living. How dare you lie to the third lady? The middle-aged man laid on the ground. His face was covered with dust and withered grass. He struggled to raise his head and said loudly, I dare not. My name is really Hu Ren. Xiao Qi shook her head and did not say anything. The young protector exerted force on his foot. Crack! His right palm was broken. Ah! The middle-aged protector screamed loudly, startling the birds in the woods. Chu Li covered his mouth and coughed softly, looking more and more like someone who had yet to recover from a serious injury. He shook his head and sighed, Why bother? It's just some normal questions, there's no need to play tricks. Even if Lu Yurong knows that you've confessed, she won't make things difficult for you. I'm telling the truth. The middle-aged guard showed a pleading expression and said regretfully, I'm not lying. Xiao Qi uttered, His left palm is crippled too. Yes, third miss. The young guard responded in a deep voice. Ignoring the middle-aged man's struggles and screams, he took the opportunity to break his left palm. Xiao Qi said, There's a limit to my patience. Next time, I'll directly cripple your martial arts. Where did Lu Yurong go? I don't know. The middle-aged man's face was deathly pale. His palms had already been crushed, and he could not exert any strength. He sighed in a hoarse voice, I'm just a small fry. Startled man, what about the grandmasters? Xiao Qi asked. They've retreated back to the public house. The middle-aged man answered without hesitation. He could see Xiao Qi's determination. The next time she crippled his martial arts, everything would be gone, and he would rather die. Xiao Qi looked at him and shook her head. Looks like you don't want your martial arts anymore. The middle-aged man hurriedly shouted, I swear to God, if I lie, I'll die a horrible death. Xiao Qi said, cripple him. Yes, third miss. The young guard did not hesitate to step on the middle-aged man's dantian. I'll speak, I'll speak. The middle-aged man hurriedly shouted. Xiao Qi did not speak. The young guard exerted force with the tip of his foot and fiercely pushed. The middle-aged man screamed in despair and stared at Xiao Qi. His eyes were filled with hatred as if he wanted to pierce through her. Xiao Qi calmly waved her hand, throw him to the side of the road. The young guard picked up the middle-aged man and threw him to the side of the road like a dead dog. He then returned without saying a word. Everyone was intimidated by Xiao Qi and their movements became gentler. Chu Li said, looks like Lu Yurong still hasn't given up. Yes. Xiao Qi gently nodded. She still hasn't given up even at this point. Where's her cleverness? Both of them could see through people's hearts. The middle-aged man lied, but he was still so loyal under such circumstances. It was best to cripple him. Since he was no longer a threat, he should be spared. Chu Li smiled. You've mobilized so many grandmasters, but you can't do anything about it. She's still human. Xiao Qi's watery eyes fell on his face. Can you find them? She knew that Chu Li was sensitive and could seek fortune and avoid calamity. He could faintly sense danger. Through this sense of danger, he should be able to find Lu Yurong and the others. Chu Li pondered, are we going to turn the tables? If we take the initiative to attack once, Lu Yurong will probably give up. That's true. All right, I'll try. Xiao Qi said, I'll go with you. Chu Li looked at her and did not object. Xiao Shi and the others continued their journey with the protectors following closely. Chu Li and Xiao Qi quietly left the convoy and used their light body technique to shuttle through the forest. After a quarter of an hour, Chu Li stopped in front of a valley and pointed at the lush valley. Xiao Qi was surprised. They're inside? Chu Li nodded. Most likely, that place is the most dangerous. He had already seen the situation in the valley in his mind. The 6 grandmasters were all there, but Lu Yurong was not there. Although he had never seen Lu Yurong before, if she was there, he would definitely recognize her. The 6 grandmasters were resting in the forest in the valley. They were lazy and could not lift their spirit. My lady, are we really going to fight? Yes. All right then, you go first. I'll lure them over. Xiao Qi glared at him. It was obvious that she was too lazy to refute him. Chu Li smiled. My light body technique is good. They won't be able to catch up. Go and call Elder Zhao and the others over. Once they get close, they will definitely be alerted. It'll be hard to ambush them. Chu Li said. Grandmasters had an intuition towards danger. If they could sense the danger beforehand, it would be hard to ambush them. If the opponent wanted to avoid the battle, it would be hard to catch them unless they were forced into a corner like Xiao Shi. Chu Li had now figured out Lu Yurong's plan. Her goal was not to kill Xiao Shi but to kill Zhao Qingshan and the others. To weaken the public house's strength, eliminating a grandmaster was the most effective way. It seemed like she wanted to deal with Xiao Shi and numb the people of the public house. But it was like boiling a frog in warm water. Unknowingly, the strength of the public house weakened and in the end, they became the meat of the run public house. Xiao Qi frowned. She was very unwilling. Chu Li said, My lady, let me do it. Xiao Qi gently shook her head. Don't mess around. Chu Li smiled. If I can't hit them, I'll escape. No problem. He did not wait for Xiao Qi to reply. He disappeared on the spot and in another flash, he appeared in the forest in the valley. Swoosh! With a light whistle, a cold light shot toward Shi Wu, the leader of the 6 grandmasters of the Ren public house. Shiwu was short and thin. He did not look like a top-notch master. He looked more like an old farmer. His heart was alarmed. His body flashed and he barely avoided it. However, the speed of the flying blade was too fast. It brushed past his shoulder and drew a long wound. Blood flowed out. Who? Shiwu covered his shoulder. His face was pale. From the moment he felt the warning to when he dodged, the time was too short for him to react. Chuli disappeared in a flash and appeared beside Xiaoqi. He whispered, "Let's go." Xiaoqi and Chuli used their light body technique and flew away. 6 figures flew out of the valley. Shiwu and the others madly chased after them. They followed their instincts and chased after them. Chuli saw that things were not going well. He whispered, "My lady, I'm sorry." He reached out and grabbed Xiaoqi's slender waist. They disappeared in a flash. Xiaoqi was about to struggle. The light and shadow in front of her distorted. Her whole body was suppressed by an invisible force and she could not move. After a moment, her eyes brightened. She was already on the main road, and she did not know how far they had flown. She turned her head and coldly stared at Chuli. Chuli let go of her hand. The warmth and softness of his palm made him very reluctant. However, on the surface, he smiled as if nothing had happened. He said, "Grandmasters are really scary. They can actually catch up. But they don't dare to mess around. I hurt one of them." "You hurt him?" Xiaoqi looked at him. Chuli smiled and said, "The 4th level allows me to use the infinite azure sea to my heart's content." Xiaoqi said, "Since you've reached the 4th level, you are still not a match for a grandmaster." She was also enlightened. The 4th level of the sentient menace was the meridian refinement, which made the meridians extremely tough. It was like adding wings to a tiger for the infinite azure sea. With another level of the infinite azure sea, the power would be incomparable, and it would greatly increase his strength. Of course. Chuli smiled. But this time they will not dare to be unscrupulous. They will be more obedient. Chapter 115. The two caught up with the crowd. Chuli stopped pretending to be a patient and became the coachman. Xiaoqi rode beside him on her horse. Chuli swung his whip and asked, "My lady, have you seen a spirit tiger before?" "A spirit tiger?" Xiaoqi muttered. "You want to see a spirit tiger?" She guessed Chuli's intention right away. He cultivated the art of white tiger portrait and wanted to see the true form of a spirit tiger. It was beneficial for his cultivation. He had seen a few of the master's portraits and must have learned something from them. Chuli smiled. "It would be great if I could see a spirit tiger. You know how powerful a spirit tiger is." Xiaoqi said, "With your current cultivation level, you'll die if you meet a spirit tiger." "My lady, have you seen a spirit tiger before?" "If you have, you can't see me now." "Is a spirit tiger really that powerful?" "You can learn a thing or two from the art of white tiger." Xiaoqi calmly said, "They're God's favored children. They're born with psychic abilities, strong bodies, and inherited cultivation method. If it weren't for the fact that they stayed in 100,000 hills and despised the outside world, I'm afraid they would have been extinct long ago." The spirit tiger was terrifying beyond imagination. She knew from the imperial family's secrets that once a spirit tiger came out of the mountains, it would kill an entire city of people. No matter how powerful a human was, they were no different from ants in front of a spirit tiger. Only enlightened masters could escape. The spiritual energy in the 100,000 hills was dense. The cities and villages outside were like stinking ditches compared to the 100,000 hills. The spirit tiger could not stand it and did not want to stay for even a moment longer. This gave humans a chance to survive. Chuli sighed. 100,000 hills, the more he read, the more he understood the world. He realized that humans were not the king of all things in this world. The spirit beasts in the 100,000 hills were the real masters and viewed humans as ants. No matter how powerful one's martial arts was, it was nothing in front of a spirit beast. Treasured swords could not pierce through a spirit beast's fur, and martial arts were like tickles to a spirit beast. He also knew that powerful martial arts were often learned from spirit beasts. For example, the sun-cultivating white tiger portrait, the current world's palm techniques, and fist techniques all originated from spirit beasts. They were merely imitations of spirit beasts. Compared to the real spirit beasts, it was somewhat laughable. The 100,000 mountain range was a paradise for spirit beasts and a forbidden area for humans. Shao-Chi said, "Even a master in the enlightened master's boundary will most likely die if he approaches 100,000 hills." How were those tiger drawings drawn? It might have been passed down from the heavenly god realm, or it might have been passed down from generation to generation. Shao-Chi furrowed her brows and shook her head. No matter how similar the tiger in the painting is, it's still nothing compared to a real spirit tiger. Unfortunately, almost no one has ever seen a spirit tiger and survived. Chu-Li muttered, "Has no one ever raised a tiger?" Shao-Chi glared at him, as if blaming him for asking such a stupid question. Whoever dares to raise a tiger is courting death. Putting aside the question of how one could obtain a cub of a spirit tiger, even if one were to obtain one by chance, one would not be able to raise it. The spirit tigers in the world could sense one another, and they would soon come to one's doorstep, annihilate one's entire family, and take away the cub. Chu-Li sighed. "I really want to see the spirit tiger." "You'll only have a glimmer of hope when you've reached the enlightened mastery's boundary." Shao-Chi shook her head. Below the enlightened mastery's boundary, 100,000 hills is a forbidden place. Chu-Li nodded helplessly. "But this time, Grand Secretary Kong has a few tiger drawings hidden away. You can borrow them from second eldest sister," Shao-Chi said. Chu-Li's eyes lit up. He realized that the art of white tiger was extremely mysterious. It was completely different from the usual torso tuning technique. He even felt that the art of white tiger might not be any weaker than the sentient menace, and might even be better. The sentient menace borrowed energy from the body, but the art of white tiger absorbed the invisible energy from the void. However, if he wanted to improve the art of white tiger, the force of the white tiger was the most important. By looking at a few tiger drawings, his cultivation progressed faster. If he could see a real spirit tiger, it would be even more powerful. Unfortunately, it was rare to see a white tiger, so he could only look at the tiger drawings. He had seen a tiger in his past life. Although it was far from the spirit tiger of this world, it was still somewhat similar, unlike the people today who only heard of legends and had never seen a real tiger. They could only rely on their imagination. This allowed him to cultivate the art of white tiger very quickly, far surpassing the people. If he wanted to completely cultivate the art of white tiger, he might have to see a real spirit tiger. "My lady, I want to go out for a while," Chu-Li said. Shao-Chi looked at him. Chu-Li said, "I'll be back soon." Shao-Chi frowned. It seemed that he did not want to tell her, but she did not ask. "Don't take too long. If something really happens, I'll send a signal." Chu-Li patted the arrow on his chest and smiled. "If there's danger, I can escape. Go!" Shao-Chi waved her hand. Chu-Li closed fist, saluted and disappeared from the carriage. Guomulin fluttered over. "Third lady, where's young Chu-Li?" "He has some private matters to attend to. This young man, he really makes people worry." Guomulin shook his head. Shao-Chi glanced at him. She did not expect that Chu-Li would be able to enter Guomulin's eyes. Guomulin's medical skills were very high, but his temper was also very bad. Other than second elder sister, he did not like anyone else. He would always mock and ridicule others, but Chu-Li was the exception. If it wasn't for him this time, second lady and I would be finished. Guomulin sighed. This young man is really ruthless to himself. He's quite loyal, Xiaoqi said. Guomulin said, Congratulations, third lady. I can see that second lady is also very tempted and wants to snatch it. Xiaoqi pursed her lips and chuckled. Guomulin shook his head. This kind of smart and loyal guy is very rare. He should be put in an important position. Xiaoqi said, I see that he likes medical skills. Please give him some pointers, Elder Guo. I want to pass on my medical skills to him. Guomulin said, Nowadays, people are desperately practicing martial arts. They don't want to learn medicine. If this continues, no one will be able to treat their injuries. Xiaoqi nodded. This was indeed a big problem. People valued martial arts more than literature. Doctors were often people who could not practice martial arts and were forced to choose it. They did not really like it. As a result, there was a lack of medical talent. They were becoming more and more scarce. The exquisite medical skills of the predecessors were slowly being lost. In the depths of a dense forest, Chu Li suddenly appeared behind Fa Yuan. He swung his hand and shot out a cold light. Fa Yuan's gray robe fluttered. He moved horizontally a foot and pointed a finger behind him. Chi! Chi! Two sounds of air being pierced were heard almost at the same time. Chu Li moved sideways to avoid the finger energy. The invisible finger energy was clearly visible to his eyes. Fa Yuan also avoided the cold light. He turned around and threw another punch. Woo! The fist energy hit like a rock. Chu Li extended his palm and pressed. Bang! He was pushed back 3 steps. He spun his feet and dissipated the fist energy. His palm felt as if it was cut by a knife. Traces of energy still permeated his arm. Such a pure inner energy. Chu Li sighed. However, he was no longer afraid of Fa Yuan's inner energy. He used the imminent skyline purification technique. The combination of the infinite azure sea and the imminent skyline technique produced a trace of pure inner energy to fight against Fa Yuan's inner energy. If it was in the past, his meridians would not be able to withstand the confrontation of two pure inner energies. Now he was fearless. However, this technique was extremely complicated. He needed to circulate the complicated heart technique twice. Especially the imminent skyline purification technique, it was not used to fight against an enemy. Chapter 116. Amit Ba. Fa Yuan stood 10 steps away from him. His gray robe fluttered in the wind and his handsome face was solemn. Chu Li grinned. Monk Fa Yuan, you still haven't given up yet. Fa Yuan pressed his palms together. Congratulations, Almsgiver Chu's martial arts has improved greatly. Chu Li waved his hand. Hypocrite, do you really like my martial arts? The Tempest Temple can't wait for my martial arts to be crippled and kill me. Almsgiver Chu, you're wrong. Fa Yuan shook his head and said, I'm following the abbot's orders to surrender to you. If you convert to our temple, everyone in our temple will be happy. Chu Li waved his hand. Monk, forget it. We're not on the same path. I haven't enjoyed enough glory and wealth. I haven't seen enough of the mortal world. When he first left the temple and entered the public house, he wanted to experience the mortal world and enjoy the riches of this world. Dharma was profound. No matter how smart a person was, they would not be able to understand the essence of Dharma without experiencing the mortal world and seeing through it. It was like telling a person who had never eaten meat that they would get tired of eating too much meat. If they did not eat enough meat, no matter how good their understanding was, they would not get tired of it. Amit Ba. Fa Yuan sighed. What a pity, what a pity. Chu Li smiled. Monk, you want to kill me. Subduing demons is my duty. Fa Yuan shook his head. Almsgiver Chu, why do you have to do this? Chu Li said, Monk, I won't hold back then. Fa Yuan pointed with his finger soundlessly. Chu Li sidestepped and dodged it. Monk, you're so cunning. What kind of finger energy is that? Formless finger. Fa Yuan said gently, Almsgiver Chu, please. Chu Li suddenly disappeared from the spot. Fa Yuan's body moved as well. Like a wisp of smoke, he moved in front of him and behind him at the same time, preventing Chu Li from flashing to his back. At the same time, he shot out rays of finger energy that turned into a large net to protect his body, preventing Chu Li from approaching him silently. Chu Li appeared 100 feet away and laughed. Monk, why are you so afraid of death? A monk has not seen through life and death. Your boundary is not high enough. Fa Yuan's expression did not change. He clasped his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha, sighing, Almsgiver Chu has great light body technique. Chu Li said, Fa Yuan, you can't just follow me like this. You can't break my light body technique, and you can't threaten me with other people's lives. Why don't we stop? Fa Yuan said faintly, I will always follow Almsgiver Chu and look for flaws. How long are you going to follow me? If 1 month is not enough, then 1 year. If 1 year is not enough, then 10 years. Fa Yuan said, Almsgiver Chu is my inner demon, I must get rid of him. Chu Li could not help but laugh. I've become your inner demon. Interesting, I can only destroy you now. He disappeared in a flash. Fa Yuan's silhouette followed suit. He was as ethereal as smoke. Chu Li did not appear at all. Fa Yuan did not dare to stop for even a moment. After 15 minutes there was still no movement. His sword-like eyebrows twitched slightly and he suddenly stopped. He focused his attention and gathered the power in his finger. He was ready to strike at any time and was also ready to dodge his opponent's sneak attack. A cool breeze gently swept past the treetops, blowing on his face and making him feel warm. The forest was empty, and there was no longer any movement. He did not dare to relax and was very careful. Chu Li suddenly flashed and appeared in front of Fa Yuan. Fa Yuan had been paying attention to what was behind him and did not expect Chu Li to appear in front of him. Chi! A cold light shot towards Fa Yuan's throat. Fa Yuan desperately moved to the side, relying on the warning signs and intuition at the last moment. He barely avoided the attack. The left side of his neck was slashed by the blade. If it was not for the sentient menace, he would have been injured. Chu Li shook his head. With the protection of the sentient menace, it would not be easy to kill Fa Yuan. Monk again. Chu Li chuckled and disappeared once again. Fa Yuan suddenly sat cross-legged and closed his eyes. He put his palms together and chanted. He activated the sentient menace to the extreme and his whole body was enveloped in golden light. Chu Li stood 20 meters away and sized him up. Fa Yuan was already at the 4th level of the sentient menace. It was clear that he was gifted and was even better than Chu Li. Such a young monk from the Tempest Temple was able to reach the Grandmaster's boundary. Who knew how many Grandmasters were hidden in the Tempest Temple? Time passed slowly. Fa Yuan took out a porcelain bottle and swallowed a pill. He then continued to chant. The sentient menace consumed a lot of inner energy. With each advancement, the consumption of inner energy doubled. Chu Li estimated that no matter how deep Fa Yuan's inner energy was, his inner energy could not be used for too long. After all, he could not use the surrounding spiritual energy like the life and death scripture. Chu Li disappeared from the spot and returned to the carriage. Xiao Qi was talking next to Xiao Shi's carriage. She felt his appearance and glanced at him. Her eyes were as clear as spring water. Chu Li smiled and nodded. He swung the horsewhip lightly. Along the way, Chu Li appeared in front of Fa Yuan from time to time to ambush him. Although Fa Yuan was struggling, he was not injured. The sentient menace made him invincible. He could not do anything to Chu Li, and Chu Li could not do anything to him. Jing Hai Town, Kong residence. Chu Li changed into a scholar's green robe and took a folding fan. It immediately covered up his heroic spirit and made him look like a scholar. He followed Xiao Shi and Xiao Qi side by side with Guomulin and entered the lively Kong residence. Grand Secretary Kong was a high-ranking official of the imperial court. Although he had retired, he had students all over the world. Many of them were in high positions. Most of the people who came to congratulate him were officials of the imperial court. It was rare to see people from the martial arts world. Everyone knew that Grand Secretary Kong hated people from the martial arts world. He felt that they violated the law with their martial arts and ignored the imperial court's laws. They were unscrupulous and should be punished severely. It would be best if they were all eliminated. Then, the world would be at peace. Since he came to power, he suppressed many sects in the martial arts world. He even destroyed 2 sections. The disciples of these 2 sects were unfilial and committed crimes. However, the 2 sects blindly covered up for them. He eradicated the 2 sects with a thunderous method. It was a shocking case. Before Chu Li came, he already knew about Grand Secretary Kong. He was considered a good person in the imperial court. He was gentle and gentle. When he faced people from the martial arts world, he immediately changed his attitude. However, his essays and poems were well known and he was greatly supported by the scholars. The leader of the literary world, the public enemy of the martial arts world. The doorman led the 4 into the front courtyard of the Grand Secretary residence. Xiao Shi and Xiao Qi were led to the main hall, while Chu Li and Guomulin were led to the side hall. Both of them did not have the qualifications to see Grand Secretary Kong. The side hall was also very lively. There were many advisors and protectors with sharp eyes. The 2 of them did not attract any attention when they came in. Chu Li and Guomulin sat in the armchair. The 2 of them discussed medical skills along the way. Chu Li asked for advice on the problems he encountered in the medical book. Guomulin patiently explained from the simple to the profound. Chu Li learned a lot. He was considered to have completely entered the door of medical skills. He had a photographic memory. He memorized classic ancient prescriptions and medicinal herbs. He was very familiar with them. This made Guomulin envious. He also placed great hope in Chu Li. He felt that Chu Li was a genius doctor. With a little training, he could run amok in the apricot forest. They talked for a while and were let out again. They passed through a few moon gates and arrived at a quiet courtyard. There was a green bamboo forest in the courtyard. Xiao Qi and Xiao Shi were already sitting in the gazebo in the courtyard, admiring the bamboos. There was a delicate maid beside them. Thanks to second eldest sister, we will be staying here for the next 2 days. Xiao Qi said, Elder Guo and Chu Li will also be staying here. Chu Li smiled. This Grand Secretary Kong hates people from the martial arts world so much. How can he still hire a grandmaster to protect him? Along the way, he used the omniscient mirror to observe the Kong residence. He found 2 grandmasters. Chapter 117. They were sent by the imperial family. Xiao Qi shook her head. Without a grandmaster, Scholar Kong would have been killed. Mulin scoffed. He's too hateful. Scholar Kong has a noble character and is supported by the scholars. If he's assassinated, it'll be a disaster. Xiao Shi said softly. That's true. Mulin nodded. If he's killed, the scholars will hate the martial arts world even more. They'll push the imperial court to suppress the martial arts world. The world might be in chaos. Chu Li coughed. It won't be that bad, right? Do you think the world is peaceful now? Mulin rolled his eyes at him. There's an undercurrent. If there's chaos, the High Duke's public house will be the first to bear the brunt. Chu Li looked at Xiao Qi. They should be prepared. Xiao Qi said, There's nothing we can do if there's chaos. The most frightening thing is when the enemies invade. These people from the martial arts world will create chaos. Chu Li shook his head. The martial arts world is too peaceful. The martial arts world is not peaceful. The public security is in chaos. The people's hearts are boiling. Xiao Qi shook her head. I understand what you mean, but I don't dare to do it. She understood what Chu Li meant. He wanted to incite chaos in the martial arts world. He wanted them to kill each other and weaken their strength. Even if they were to create chaos in the future, it would be difficult for them to do anything. Unfortunately, it was like playing with fire. The imperial court dared not do anything rash. The imperial court doesn't want to unify the martial arts world? Chu Li asked. They want to, but they can't. Xiao Qi said. Unless they're from the 4 major sects, it'll be hard to convince the public. The 4 major sects have a high status. The imperial court can't touch them. Chu Li sighed. It's an awkward situation. Yes, Xiao Qi said. Xiao Shi smiled. Chu Li, you've learned medicine from Elder Guo. How's your medical skills? Chu Li smiled. I've only learned a little. You're not humble at all, Mulan said impatiently. I've only learned a little. You haven't even learned a little. Chu Li smiled. It's all thanks to Elder Guo's training. Then help me take a look. Xiao Shi extended her snow-white wrist. Her skin was as white as snow. It was less lustrous than Xiao Qi's. Coupled with her eyebrows that were far away, her delicate face made people feel pity and care. Chu Li glanced at Xiao Qi. Xiao Qi said, Let's watch then. Chu Li placed his right hand on Xiao Shi's wrist. A delicate and cool sensation traveled from his fingertips to his body. He suppressed his palpitating heart and focused his senses on her. After a while, he asked her to switch to her other wrist and carefully examined it. He slowly furrowed his brows and activated the omniscient mirror. He slowly looked at her body inch by inch, but he could not find any problems. Have you found anything? Mulan scoffed. Chu Li did not say anything and continued to stare at Xiao Shi. Xiao Shi felt uncomfortable being stared at by him. It was as if his gaze could penetrate her clothes. Standing naked in front of him, her skin felt a little numb. Chu Li frowned. Something's not right. He had seen the body of a congenitally deficient person, and it was different from Xiao Shi's. Xiao Shi's condition was a little strange. Her meridians were thin and weak, and her qi of vitality was weak. She was like a flickering candle that could be blown out by a gust of wind. This was not because her body was weak, but because she did not have enough vitality. It was a sign that her life was coming to an end. It's a congenital deficiency. Can't you tell? Mulan said. Chu Li shook his head. That doesn't seem right. What's wrong? Mulan asked with interest. What's different? Chu Li turned his head to Xiao Qi and said, My lady, can you find a young woman who does not know martial arts? It would be best if she is 2 years younger than the second lady. No martial arts. Xiao Qi nodded. No problem. Mulan said, What did you see? I suspect that the lady is not congenitally weak, but it's a special technique. Chu Li frowned. I've read about a secret technique in a miscellaneous book. It kills without leaving a trace. Although he had read medical books before, he did not have anyone to guide him. He only knew the theory without much thought. After Mulan's guidance, he had mastered it thoroughly. When he looked at the human body again, it was completely different from before. He had a deeper understanding of the subtleties and wonders of the human body. Xiao Shi's body seemed to be congenitally deficient. Her pulse was so, and her external symptoms were also consistent. However, there were some circumstances that did not match the signs of a congenital deficiency. No matter how good Mulan was, no matter how accurate he was at reading the pulse, he could not see through the human body like Chu Li. It was like the difference between an ultrasound and an MRI. What technique? Xiao Qi turned to ask Chu Li after she finished instructing the maid. Chu Li said, Vitality sealing finger. My initial suspicion is this, but I still have to verify it. Xiao Qi thought for a while and shook her head. She had never heard of this. Mulan frowned and thought hard. He had never heard of it either. Xiao Shi muttered, Vitality sealing finger, I think I've seen it before. It drains one's innate vitality and reduces one's lifespan, right? Chu nodded. It can't be? Mulin frowned. Looking at Seo Shi's symptoms, it's completely congenitally deficient. Chu said, after the vitality sealing finger is cast, the outward appearance is congenitally deficient because it continuously drains one's innate vitality. But this is just my guess. I still need to take a closer look. While they were talking, the maid from before brought another maid in. Chu glanced at the delicate and pretty maid. She was petite and thin, and her face was rosy. Although she did not look like she knew martial arts, she was very healthy. She came in front of the four of them, lowered her head and did not move. Chu did not say anything. He only stared at her. After a while, he looked at Seo Shi again. His eyes moved back and forth between the two of them. After a quarter of an hour, Chu waved his hand. Seo Chi ordered the maid to leave. The maid from before followed and left the courtyard. Seo Chi said, "Is it the vitality sealing finger?" "Most likely." Chu sighed. "I didn't expect this technique to not be lost." "Is there a way?" Seo Chi asked. Seo Shi's eyes were clear like water. She looked at him quietly. It was obvious that her heart was not moved. Mulin was dubious about it. After all, Chu had only learned medicine for a few days. He was half a bottle of water. Could he really tell if it was congenitally deficient or the vitality sealing finger? Seo Shi was not an ordinary person. If he really made a mistake and some accident happened, 100 deaths would not be enough to atone for it. Chu said, coincidentally, "I know the method to remove it. It's not complicated, but it's a little dangerous." "How?" Seo Chi asked. Chu looked at Seo Shi. "You need to use a strong inner energy to hit Bai Hui. It's best if it's a grandmaster." Seo Chi frowned. "It's either life or death, right? Using a strong inner energy to hit Bai Hui, even a grandmaster would die. Not to mention a weak woman like second elder sister." Chu nodded helplessly. "Yes. How dare you? How dare you?" Mulin widened his eyes and said angrily, "Nonsense." Seo Shi frowned and pondered. Chu saved her life before. She did not doubt his loyalty. However, she was not confident in his medical skills. Seo Chi stared at him. "Chu, are you sure?" Chu said, "Most likely." "Indeed, it's nonsense," Seo Chi said lightly. "Forget it. Pretend that nothing happened. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.